All right. Good evening, everybody. February 23rd. It is our scheduled city council meeting. At this time, if we could take roll, that'd be great.
Mr. Mayor, may I interrupt? This is Erwin from the council chambers.
Yes.
We haven't given the public an opportunity to join. Once that call is initiated, it still takes a couple minutes for most people to join.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me know when they're on.
We can go ahead and start.
Great. Roll call, please.
Estrada,
Present.
Garcia,
Here.
Gonzalez,
Here.
Hurst,
Here.
Montesino,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
Dutra.
Here. We have a quorum. Okay, so let's move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Were there any written reports from council members regarding actions taken on the regional commission boards meetings that may affect the city of Watsonville? Lowell?
Yes, I have submitted one, and it talks about the work of the Area Agency on Aging and the state's plans for senior citizens and what we may be able to do to support seniors in the future.
Great. Thank you, Lowell. Were there any other reports? Okay, with seeing none, we'll move on. Presentations and oral communications. This time is set aside for members of the general public to address the council on any item not on the city council's agenda, which is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. No action or discussion shall be taken on any item presented except that any council member may respond to statements made or questions asked, or may ask questions for clarification. All matters of an administrative nature will be referred to staff. All matters relating to council will be noted in the minutes and may be scheduled for discussion at a future meeting or referred to staff clarification report. All speakers are asked to announce their name in order to obtain an accurate record for the minutes. We'd also love to know what district you live in, so the council members can reach out to you personally. And then if we can have this in Spanish as well, we'd appreciate it.
Queríamos informarles acerca de que ahorita es el tiempo para que alguna persona del público hable en español si necesita hacerlo. También pueden entrar y escuchar la reunión en español. Nomás tienen que ir donde miran como un mundo y escoger español y ahí pueden escuchar la reunión en español. Muchas gracias.
Great, thank you. Okay, Tamara, do we have any people in line? It looks like we do.
Tamara hasn't been able to come in, so I'm going to go ahead and do it myself. And we do have some speakers, and I'm going to allow Barry Scott to come in.
Unmute. Okay, thank you. I'm Barry Scott. I live outside of the Watsonville city limits, but I am friends with so many people in Watsonville, and I do all my shopping there. I want to welcome Mayor Dutra back to the council and Council Member Montesino to our new city council. And I want to and thank all of the returning council members for your support over time of the rail and the trail, the rail transit project and the trail, which you know is just opened up a small section of the trail. And I want to say this because it's so important. I think where our transit in this county is so poor that we need both Metro to be greatly strengthened and we need to use that rail line. The last constitution of the city council passed a unanimous resolution urging the RTC and the rest of the county agencies to go full steam ahead with a rail transit project on the branch line. This will not take money away from Metro. In fact, if you read the fine print, it adds money for more retro shuttle routes, will add ridership. Operators of a rail system will belong to the same union as Metro bus drivers. And what we really need to do is avoid any kind of impression that one system will take funding away from the other system. That's something that the people that don't want any kind of public transit will tell you. So I hope that sometime this year, this council will reaffirm their commitment to both stronger Metro service and rail transit with the trail on that rail on our branch line. Thank you so much.
Next caller, please. Is it Dr. Bilicich?
Yes.
Someone's playing some music.
Nancy, go ahead.
Thank you. Welcome, Council. I just had some wonderful news I wanted to share with you. And this is a letter that I have in my possession from the Congress of the United States, Jimmy Panetta, who wrote a letter to the Honorable Joseph R. Biden Jr., President of the United States. And he starts out, I write about the importance of the local infrastructure project as a way to address issues of inequality in our communities. He goes on to say, I wanted to offer a real world example from my district on the central coast of California that highlights the importance of addressing issues of equity in infrastructure funding. The Pajaro River Flood Risk Management Project was designed by the Army Corps of Engineers in the 1940s to protect the city of Watsonville and the town of Pajaro from flooding. And he talks about how unfortunately that's failed. And he said when he began his first term in Congress, efforts to repair the levee system on the Pajaro River had been stalled for more than 50 years. He said, I've been able to work made substantial progress on the whole project, securing a final feasibility report in 2019, federal funding in 2020 and 2021 that will cover the cost of the pre-construction engineering and design. And then he goes on saying that the core funding decisions are driven by benefit to cost ratios that do not properly take into consideration the impact of the inaction on the disadvantaged communities. So he said, today, the communities of Watsonville and Pajaro can be considered disadvantaged based upon several issues. He said, you know, we're already over 80% Hispanic with per capita incomes that are well below the state and national average. He goes on to say that being a disadvantaged community unfortunately contributes to the low benefit to cost ratio for the project, making it very difficult to secure federal funding. But he said this project will require a much more significant infuse of federal assistance as it nears construction. And he said, I encourage your administration to be creative and compassionate when funding meaningful infrastructure efforts. And he just talks about how he hopes that the president will continue to perpetuate and enhance the values of our country. I thought this was very significant that we have Congressman Panetta has submitted the letter on our behalf, Little Watsonville, our community, on our levy. So I just wanted to share it with
Dr.
council.
Bilicich. That was amazing. And thank you for all your service that you continue to give to our great city over these many years. We appreciate it. We'd love to have you back and maybe do a presentation for maybe some time about all the hard work you're doing on the Zone 7 committee.
Okay,
So maybe
thank you very much.
one of our staff members can get in touch with you and plan something because we'd love to know what's going on. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I don't see any more hands, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. We will bring it back to the City Council. I'm just going to go in order from who I see people. Council Member Montesino.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to thank the community that's watching us and supporting up our efforts. And please continue to watch us. We have good things coming to us, like community's asking about, Ramsey Park and, the housing crunch that we're dealing in. And today you'll see some of those efforts to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you. Council member Ari Parker.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for participating by either being here or checking in and participating in commentary. Just want to say big kudos to our city staff who, and I'm going to say it again, who brought vaccinations to South County because although we have county nurses and everything, that's where the vaccinations are coming from. It would not have happened in the time frame it happened if it wasn't for our staff. So I want to say a big thank you to Maravides and Matt Huffaker, who spearheaded it, and all the staff who've been out there and volunteering. And thank you everyone and all our community organizations and partners for getting everyone out there and the older folks to getting them their vaccinations. It's huge. And of course it's on my mind. My mom has COVID, and my mom has COVID because she was recovering and from a hip surgery, and she had one shot. And she had one shot at our fairgrounds. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think that's what saved her life to this point. She's still struggling, but I don't think it would have happened without that. So I want to say thank you for not just my mom, but all the people that our staff and our community partners have helped to vaccinate. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Parker. Prayers to you and your family, and your mom especially. Council Member Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, shout out to everybody. Thank you for attending and participating. It's important to keep going and being safe, keeping our distance, keeping our masks, and if you can, get that vaccine. Have gone through COVID myself. I don't wish it upon anybody, and my prayers go out to Councilman Parker's mom. But on another note, I'd like to go out there and make sure that the community is aware also of the Veterans Building. As a councilman, I've received a lot of inquiries and worries about the impact that shelter has been occurring. I just want to make sure that the community is aware that we are continuously working on that, and we are trying to work with the county to have it moved, because that's what really needs to happen, especially if our schools are going to open up. The impact of that shelter has just been tremendous in our community, and we really need to start focusing on that. Otherwise, folks, remember, shop locally. It's important. It helps us out. Every dollar that we spend locally, we can reinvest it back into our community. Just like Measure Y, it's based on our tax revenue, and some of that goes into our parks. And so we want to be able to be programs for our youth and to our seniors. Kudos out to our senior center, Katie Nunes, doing an outstanding job there. And again, just everybody be safe, stay healthy, and shop local.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Estrada.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon to the public and to my colleagues. I couldn't have said it better than my colleague, Ari. Well said. Thank you to the city, to the staff, to the volunteers and the community. This has not been an easy process. It's been really an unprecedented process. And, everyone's doing the best they can. People are tired, but they're still working for the community. And so, thank you to everyone. I just want to echo as well what Eduardo said. I was pleasantly surprised to see emails about Ramsey Park. I think everybody on this council and the city staff love that park, and we really want to do a lot for the park, and anything we can do to help improve it, we'll do our job. And Unfortunately this week, we crossed a sort of a sad milestone. 500,000 people have passed away due to COVID. And like my colleague Aurelio said, please continue to follow our guidelines. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And if the mayor will allow me, I wanted to yield my last minute to honor those that have passed away from COVID. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Hurst.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our meeting. I think it's important that the public have full and transparent access to the city council. I would point the public and the council members to my report on the Area Agency on Aging and the state's master plan for aging. Everybody hopes to grow old peacefully at some time or another, I hope. And with a state plan, we might have some guideposts there. I want to thank the staff for their work in the COVID vaccinations. They have gone way beyond normal abilities to round up folks that didn't have computer access or phone access or even hear about the COVID vaccination. So keep up the good job there, and we'll get everybody taken care of, I hope. As one of our previous speakers said, the importance of transportation is important, and all forms of transportation are important. And I'm glad to see that our rail and trail are moving forward, and we look forward to a better connectivity to not just to Santa Cruz, but the outside world as well. I want to thank staff again for keeping the agenda down to 631 pages rather than the customary 1,900 pages that we sometimes experience. But there is important work to do, and so let's get it done. And finally, I would just say, safety first. Let's all be patient as we can, and let's persevere as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Garcia.
Good afternoon, everybody. As your council member, I did attend the Criminal Justice Council meeting that occurred last week, and that meeting included Chief Honda. There's not anything to report from that meeting. I do want to share, though, that I had the opportunity to view 2 Pajaro Valley Arts Gallery virtual presentations. The first was of 3 local artists presenting their artwork, which included prints, paintings, drawings, and murals. The second presentation was a poetry reading by 3 women. My favorite poem was Papelitos, which means little papers, like when you want to write yourself a note so you don't forget. It was a great poem. And so I just want to thank the art gallery for continuing to support and provide art to the communities of Watsonville. And that concludes my report.
Great, thank you, Councilmember. I just have a few things that I wanted to say today. One is I took my position on a few boards over the past couple of weeks. I've joined the Metro Board. I'm back on it. I served for 4 years, and now I'm my 5th year with a little bit of a break in between. I'm excited to be back. I also wanted to say big thank you to Councilmember Gonzalez and Councilmember Hurst for their service on CAB. I have now joined CAB, and I see that the good work, and they've worked really hard, and they helped make our community. So I thank you both, and I hope I can fill your shoes. So I appreciate it. Also, thank you, Councilmember Estrada. Again, big big shoes I'm having to fill on PVPSA. I actually became the board president, so I'm very excited to be joining PVPSA and help advocate for, thank you, on behalf of our students and our community. So I really, really appreciate it. I also do appreciate all the emails we've received for Ramsey Park. I think that hopefully, over the coming days, I think the community or months, the community will be happy with the direction we're going to be heading with Ramsey Park. We have our ribbon cutting this Friday for the pump track, as well as the fields for Pajaro High School, which has been, they've been waiting for many, many, many years. So there are a lot of good things happening in our community. Also the ribbon cutting for Staff of Life is on March 30th. I think they open it, I think it's at 8 a.m. So that is Councilmember Parker's district. I know she's excited that they're opening. I saw them out there today. They were water pressuring the roof, getting it all nice and pretty for the opening. We have a lot of stuff happening. The old hotel on Main Street has now come down, and we are looking for the Hilton to be built there to be welcoming people into our community to have a place to stay. So we are rocking and rolling here in 2021. I also wanted just to make sure that people continue to participate and with our local government, and let us know what your needs are. All right, thank you everybody. Thank you very much, and we will move on. All right, we are in February, and it is National Black History Month, and I had the honor of, yes, Ellen. Oh, yes, report out of closed session. I skipped right over you.
Can we do the report out of closed session?
It was so exciting.
Thank you. So we have one item in closed session, and it was a potential litigation, and the council voted unanimously to authorize special counsel to file a lawsuit to clear title to a piece of property at 36 Airport Road so that the property could be developed with Habitat for Humanity into affordable housing. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Ellen. All right. So getting back to Black History Month, February is Black History Month, and it's where we celebrate, Black history. And I wanted to make sure that we celebrated here in our community and with members of our community. So I was honored to have two members of my district, District 6, who are neighbors and never met each other, but got to meet each other while they received their proclamation, Alta Northcutt and Rachel Clark. And so I met with them the other day, and here's a little bit of what happened. Good evening, everybody. Mayor Jimmy Dutra here from the city of Watsonville. Tonight, we have a very special proclamation, and this is for Black History Month, recognizing the celebration of Black history throughout the Pajaro Valley. And I'm really honored to be giving this to two local residents, Alta Northcutt and Rachel Clark. So I'm going to read a little bit of the proclamation and share with you a little bit of the history of Watsonville. So, whereas Black History Month is observed nationwide in February of each year, with the goal of celebrating the many achievements and contributions made by African Americans to our economic, cultural, and political development, and whereas Benjamin Johnson, the oldest son of Robert Johnson, became the first African American to vote in Santa Cruz County on April 30th, 1871, whereas we acknowledge the continuing struggles many African Americans face every day and recognize there is still much work to be done to truly eradicate racism. Now, therefore, I, Jimmy Dutra, the mayor of the city of Watsonville, in the state of California, on behalf of the city council, hereby recognize February 2021 as Black History Month and encourage all citizens to celebrate our diverse heritage and culture and continue our efforts to create a world that is more just, peaceful, and prosperous for all.
Hi there, my name is Alta Northcutt, and it is a great honor and a privilege to also be a part of this ceremony and to be able to receive this. I am a 22-year community member here in Watsonville, and it is a great honor to be able to step back and say that no matter where we come from, how our paths are walked, and the journeys that we take to get here, there's always that cross sections, and to be able to know that our history is not as unique as we want it to be, but our experiences are. And so I'm very thankful to be in this position to receive this proclamation as we acknowledge the ongoing efforts of Black history and what our current contributions lead to, and how we will be able to provide this as a format and a future platform for our students and our young people to come.
Hi, I'm Rachel Clark, and I am absolutely delighted to be included in this. I have made a new friend today and discovered she's also my neighbor. But I am delighted to have received this honor because I have been in this community for 50 years. And when I first came here, I think we found 3 families. And we would get so excited when we saw Black people walking down the street, and I would wave at them and say, hey! And my son would say, Mama, do we know those people? And I would say, no, but they're Black. And my experience in Watsonville has been a wonderful experience. I can honestly say that I have spent a wonderful 50 years in this community, made great friends, thought for about 30 minutes I was going to move, and realized that my family was here. And even though they're not blood family, they are family. And I hope to be here another, well, I won't say 50 years because I do not want to live that long, but I am absolutely delighted to be a part of this community and to be able to celebrate Black History Month. I have decided that I am Black all year, but this month I am Blackity Black. And so I will be celebrating Black history big time. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jimmy, for this honor and also for meeting a new friend. Thank you all. Thank you. Yes. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor Jimmy Dutra here from the city of Watsonville. The other day, I had the opportunity of giving a proclamation to Leo Welsh. He's the owner of the Wood and Nickel Bar and Grill. He's been serving us since 1983. And if you know anything about the Wood and Nickel, you know they give a huge amount of food and a little slice of cake there at the end, too. Here's a little information about Leo. Leo, at the age of 14, was a dishwasher at a local pizzeria in Colorado. He then eventually got into the U.S. Army, and while stationed in Germany, realized he was a food enthusiast. When he came home, back to the United States, he was hired by a company to open up pubs across the state of California. He later realized that's what he wanted to do for himself, and moved to the Central Coast. That's when he opened up the Wood and Nickel. Leo has always cared deeply about his community, and was dedicated to volunteering at local nonprofits such as the Seroptimus Club and sporting events, and he is also a big supporter of the Salesian Sisters. So, without further ado, I, Jimmy Dutra, the mayor of this great city of Watsonville, hereby declare a proclamation on behalf of the City Council to Leo Welsh, who has been a fixture in our community for many, many years, and we look for many, many years to come. So thank you, Leo, for all you do, and congratulations.
I'm shocked. I feel honored that they would give me a proclamation. Been doing this a long time, and very proud of Watsonville and the community. It's very proud of Wood and Nickel too, because it's been a big part of the community for many years. Thank you.
So you met a few of the proclamation recipients that we gave our proclamations out to today, and a few of them are on the line. So I would love to bring them in, or that you can Alta Northcutt is here, and Rachel Clark is here, and I know that the proclamation said a lot more on it, but we have a lot of interesting Black history. So you can also look it up online and Google Black history for Watsonville. We have a street, Brodus Street, and that was named after a runaway slave, Jim Brodus. So, and that's actually here in Watsonville, and slaves would come here from leaving Arkansas and come to Watsonville and make their home. And there's a lot of history. So it's Watsonville has a lot of history. It's continuing to make history, and I appreciate that. So if anybody has anything to say, let me know. Council members. All right. Without, oh, am I muted? No. Okay. Yes, Ari, go ahead.
I just want to say, great choices again, Mayor. Your representatives for Black History Month are fabulous people, and I want to meet them. So, you know, and I'm glad they found new neighbors. I think a lot of us have. And thank you forever for honoring the Wooden Nickel, because they're such a wonderful place. I mean, when he had the piano there, he'd always ask my mom to play whenever she came in. So I just love it. So thank you very much. Great choices, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Without any other comments, oh, Councilmember Estrada.
Thank you, Mayor. I totally agree with everything Councilmember Parker said. I'm glad that we're recognizing Black History Month, and we're recognizing the unique place that our African American neighbors and friends play and have played in this community. So thank you for that. And the Wooden Nickel, yeah, the chocolate cake. I think it was probably one of the last places I ate before the lockdown. But yeah, that chocolate cake is really, we all go for the chocolate cake. I think it's what I'm trying to say. But it's great that that you honored the Wooden Nickels. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilmember Estrada. Anyone else? All right. I will move. Montesino, Councilmember Montesino, is that your arm up, or are you? No. Okay. I see it like up like this. So I want to make sure that I'm not missing you. All right, and we have one more presentation. So the family is here, and we're going to bring them on right now. I did a little contest, a mayor's holiday lights contest during the holidays, because I just felt it was so, people really stepped it up this year and really got out in the holiday spirit, and their lights were all lit up. And this one house in Council Member Estrada's district, District 4, had, I believe, their lights out since, I want to say, September. It was a long time, and there were a lot. And every time, I mean, people would just drive by because it was really nicely decorated. And I had the opportunity of meeting the family. I just went and I knocked on their door. I said, "Hey, you guys are the winners," and I got to meet them, and they were such a lovely family. And I awarded them, and I want to say thank you to Imura's, who also has given the family a $50 gift certificate for you know, all the decoration, for all their festivities that they did as well. So I'm hoping that we will continue with these holiday contests in the year. I'm hoping we will do a Halloween one and then do a Christmas one again. So, but this house was in the district, in District 4. So I'll let them speak. And then if some of you want to make comments afterwards, that'd be great. If we can bring the family on, that would be wonderful.
Mayor, I don't see them. Do you have another name? I have a Rachel.
Rachel is the family. Rachel Jacinto.
Yeah, I don't see them.
Or Gamib. Oh, but I see some people don't have their names.
Yeah, I don't see them. So
Maybe the Gamma family, if you're on there, if you can raise your hand, and then we can pull you to the front. We can pull you in.
Yeah.
No?
I don't see any hands up.
Okay, so this is the house. If anybody would like to make any comments, you're more than welcome to. I don't know where the family is, but maybe we can bring them back at the next meeting and they can come to the 3 minutes beforehand and say a few words. All right, I don't see, oh, Councilmember Estrada.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that this was also my wife's favorite. We try to take a walk about 3 to 4 times a week, and every time we walk by the house, I think it was the highlight of the walk for my wife. And she notices and she keeps track of anything that's added each year. And so great job. We really appreciate that they really celebrate the holidays and they really light up the neighborhood, and it's right in front of the sloop, so it all just looks beautiful. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Strada. I think we should have a council member contest next year. We should all do our own houses and then let the public vote on it. Oh my gosh, getting us on a ladder, that'd be kind of funny, right? Okay, so thank you. Now we're moving to the consent agenda. All items appearing on the consent agenda are recommended actions, which are considered to be routine and will be acted upon as one consensus motion. Any items removed will be considered immediately after the consensus motion. The mayor will allow public input prior to the approval of the consent agenda. Okay, so why don't I go and get out to the public first before we come back to the council? Any of the public members would like to speak on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, we will come back to the city council member. Any council members would like to speak on the consent agenda?
I move approval.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Councilmember Montesino, thank you. Beatrice?
Estrada,
Aye.
Garcia,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Hurst,
Yes.
Montesino,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Dutra.
Yes. Thank you. This unanimously passes. All right, we're flying through, guys. Okay, so we are moving on to public hearings and ordinances and appeals. 9A, public hearing to consider construction of a 50 apartments on a 0.745 acre parcel at 588 Main Street, filed by Pacific Coast Development. This it was recommended by the Planning Commission, and the staff report will be done by Principal Planner Meek. Go ahead, Planner Meek.
Good evening, Council. I'm Justin Meek, and I'll be providing this staff report. Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, can you see that okay?
Mhm.
Very good. Move this out of the way. So the project in question is called The Residence. It's at 558 Main Street in Watsonville, California. By way of a brief overview, I'll touch on a little bit more on the location, the surrounding environment, what the specifics of the project entail, along with the procedure for the council's review and consideration of this project. Just discuss some key considerations, including compatibility with the surrounding area, zoning considerations. Note that this project is exempt from further review under CEQA, and that the required findings in support of this project may be made by council as recommended by the Planning Commission. Location of this project is in downtown Watsonville, off Main Street, with secondary access off Brennan. It's at 558 Main Street. It's a little under 1 acre in size and is in an area that's designated for central core commercial area type development. Surrounding development predominantly is commercial in nature with a few parking lots. As you can see, the project site is surrounded on all sides by commercial development. Currently, access is provided off Main Street as well as off Brennan, with secondary access through a parking lot area that opens up to East Lake. Some of the surrounding environments includes strip commercial and other kinds of shopping and commercial type activities as shown in the area photo. The site is currently vacant, although in the past it was originally a bank, and more recently, as of a few years ago, had been used as a pharmacy. The proposed project involves an infill project, 4 stories in total, combining residential above over a commercial ground floor space. The ground floor space is approximately 2,000 square feet in size and is intended to be used as a future restaurant. The 3 floors above would be a series of rental apartments that consist of studio, 1 bedroom, and 2 bedroom layouts. Predominantly 1 bedroom, there are, as you can see, 15 studios, 29 1 bedroom, and 60 bedroom units. With this project are certain kinds of amenities. On the ground floor of the residence, or the second floor of the building, there's an open courtyard area that connects to a lounge for the residents' use, as well as a dog park that would be towards the rear. This elevation just shows a side profile of where that courtyard area would look like. And this showing a side profile as well as an aerial photo, noting that in this general area in the upper right-hand corner is where the dog park with outside parking and interior parking in this portion. That's again the side profile showing that you have podium parking or structured parking within the ground floor of the main portion, as well as then the commercial space in the front of the building facing Main Street. The main access for residents coming in from the street would be through a lobby in the northwest corner, and then they get access through a elevator. On the other side of the building for emergency egress is stairwells. As you see on the ground floor, behind the commercial space is the covered parking portion of the project site. And as you go up in floors, you find the residential development. You see the mix of studio to 2 bedroom units throughout, as well as the central courtyard area where there's a mix of shaded seating areas, as well as some fire pits, and that connect to a lounge for the residents' enjoyment. The 3rd and 4th floor plan has the same layout as shown here with a mix of, again, the same unit mix of apartment type units. And of course, on the roof, it will be solar ready for solar panels where the developer wished to add them. The next series of slides show the general floor plan for the proposed development. The studio units are roughly 400 square feet in size. The single bedroom units are a little bit bigger. These are typical ones for the A and B configurations with an open floor plan for the kitchen and living room, and a single bedroom and single bathroom. The 2 bedroom, or actually, excuse me, one of the corner units, which wraps around one of the stairways, is a little bit smaller in size, but again, it has a single bedroom and open floor plan for the living room, as well as the single bathroom. The 2 bedroom units has 2 bathrooms, a central living room in between. Again, that's an open seating area with the kitchen layout. The front elevation that's shown here helps communicate the difference between the ground floor through the upper floors. The ground floor would have roughly a ceiling height of 15 feet for a large ceiling, which is conducive to a nice environment for a restaurant. The additional floors above that are a little over 10 feet in height, so as to provide relatively high ceilings for the residents. The roof height is close to 50 feet, and then there's parapet walls at different elevations to give a sense of breaking up the roof line of the building itself. The side elevation, which runs along the property line, as you can see, doesn't have any fenestrations, doesn't have any windows because it does run along the property line, and the future buildings could occur along that portion of the building. There are some striations across it just for some architectural interest, just to help break up the visual appearance of this large wall plane. But again, that in the future could be covered up with future development. The project also involves the provision of bicycle parking, drainage facilities, trash enclosure, and landscaping. As shown in the site plan for the ground floor, there's proposed bicycle parking both inside and outside the building for a total of 10 spaces. Some of the drainage facilities include a tree well, a tree chamber that actually helps treat stormwater. The trash enclosures inside the building, similar to the other project down the street at the terrace. And likewise, there is some new landscaping and fencing to improve the appearance of the site and enclose it as well. The landscaping is in the back of the lot, includes the aforementioned tree chamber that would provide for additional stormwater, as well as provide some shade for parking, as well as being closed with gates, and fencing for security purposes. The second floor also includes more landscaping, both Japanese maples and olive trees, as well as some succulents for color and interest that are also very drought tolerant for that type of environment. A project of this nature involves a density bonus and design review. The density bonus is invoked because in accordance with the city's affordable housing ordinance, the applicant is required to provide 20% of the units as affordable. And with that, they are also eligible for a density bonus, which allows them to request certain things like concessions from development standards. And of course, any development of this type requires a design review for all new construction, whether it's commercial or residential, along these lines. Some of the specific topics that I'll touch on here include the city's adopted housing development, its specific goals and policies, the overall compatibility of the project with the surrounding environment, consistency with certain standards and design guidelines. I'll also touch on access and safety concerns, and lastly, touch on CEQA as well. In terms of the housing element, it's consistent with Goal 3, Policy 3.1, and a few other policies I'll touch on in a moment. Specifically, that the project would help provide housing opportunities for helping the city reach their RENA numbers for all income groups, in that it will provide both lower income, moderate, and above income households in the effort to achieve a more balanced community. In addition, it's consistent with these two policies, 3.2 and 3.4, and that'll provide high quality rental housing opportunities for both current and future residents that are affordable to a diverse range of income levels, and would help to continue to implement the city's affordable housing ordinance and density bonus ordinance as a means of further integrating affordable units within new residential developments. In terms of the overall compatibility, the project would replace a currently vacant piece of property in downtown with a mix of commercial and residential uses. As I mentioned before, it provides both market rate and affordable units for the residential component, and the commercial space would be appropriate for a new restaurant downtown. The overall development would improve the site appearance, and as I'll touch on in just a moment, it's consistent with the city's development regulations and design guidelines. And a project of this nature can be accommodated with existing utilities and not need to be the extension for any new utilities or expansion of utilities to accommodate a project of this nature. Overall, and as further discussed in the packet, the project conforms with the Central Commercial Core zoning district regulations in terms of setback heights and all the other ones. That's codified in the city's zoning code for this zoning district, as well as design guidelines that are set forth for residential communities as well as for downtown. There are some provisions where it utilizes the density bonus requirement of a lower parking standard, as well as there's a request for a concession from having on-site parking as well. And I'll touch on that in just a moment. In terms of the parking requirement for this project, the residential one is set at 1 parking space for the studio and 1-bedroom units and 2 spaces for the 2-bedroom units. And this is applicable because of the affordability component. So as shown here in this table, the overall parking requirement for the project is 56. And as you can see in the site plan, all 56 parking spaces are accommodated on site, most of which are covered within the ground floor of the building. The restaurant component does not provide any parking on site. The city has a high parking standard of 1 parking space per 100 square feet. And the applicant has requested as a concession per density bonus law that on-site parking not be required on site, which is appropriate for both the downtown environment and as justification notes the high cost of having to provide parking on site for the commercial component, which will require either going underground or more structured parking, which would add significant additional cost to this project. Project also consistent with design guidelines set forth by the community for residential projects. As shown in this illustration here, the buildings are balanced and articulated Wall massing and roof planes are broken up, both with things like fenestrations or windows and offsets and surfaces, as well as trims to create visual interest and to make it a more interesting looking building. The overall design has a harmonious look. There's also differentiation between the ground floor commercial component and the residential above by use of different materials. As you can see here, the ground floor has a brick veneer similar to the terrace down the street, and multicolored color palette, again, to create visual interest for this overall design. Parking here also consistent with design guidelines in that it is not in the front of the building, but to the rear and screened from view. The intent here is to minimize its impact on the public realm and have it out of sight. Access to the site is by way of the existing driveway off Brennan Street. There's a question of its width. It's 20 feet wide, most of which was on the property. And of course, the remaining portion of it is under adjoining property with a right-of-way that allows access to and from the site. There are some key conditions I just want to draw your attention to that are intended to address safety concerns coming into and out of the site. These include everything from making sure there's clear delineation through striping for cars entering and exiting the site, as well as the installation of a convex mirror so as to improve visibility for pedestrians as well as vehicles going to and from and nearby. Furthermore, there is a sound and light alert system that would be installed, again, to alert pedestrians when cars are approaching the intersection of the driveway, as well as showing the removal of, this has to do with a obstruction that's covering a portion of the easement of the adjoining property to make sure that there's adequate clearance of 13 feet, 6 inches vertical clearance for fire access into the site. There's been some also question about access easements. Previously, the condition spoke to providing a title plot showing access easement. This language has been revised slightly in consultation with our city attorney to show that, and this is the revised language, to essentially make sure that the property owner has adequate 2 access points, both off Brennan and off East Lake, and that needs to be provided in a recorded document to provide proof prior to a building permit that they do have access for this particular property, as well as secondary access off East Lake. In terms of environmental review, a project of this type is considered exempt from CEQA as it qualifies for the infill provisions, in that it's a site that's less than 5 acres inside. It's in the appropriate zoning district. It can be accommodated with existing utilities and wouldn't have impacts on the surrounding environment in terms of things like air quality, noise, and so forth. The Planning Commission did make the required findings. That should be, sorry, that's a typo. Council can make the required findings for the density bonus, and that the Planning Commission did adopt a resolution back in January recommending that the council do so, namely to approve the density bonus and desire review permit and environmental review to allow the construction of this 50 apartment units on a 0.7 acre site located at 558 Main Street. That concludes staff presentation, and I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions to Planner Meek? Okay, we have a couple. Let's start with Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Justin, question on the parking, and this is from on the Brennan Street exit, the adjoining parking spaces. Is there going to be a problem with the line of sight for folks that are pulling out, since there is businesses there that I think that's allowed parking on the street, right, on Brennan? So my concern is here when folks come out of that alleyway, that if there's cars parked there or a big truck there, that they're not going to have a good line of sight to exit and get onto Brennan Street.
In terms of line of sight, it would be similar to any other driveway or other downtown environments where you have traffic coming in and out and parking. That's part of the reason why there's those additional provisions of the mirror as well as the lighting to give extra visual clues so that both pedestrians and vehicles are aware of any turning movements of cars entering or leaving the site.
So we're gonna allow to continue the parking on the Brennan side, in front of those businesses then? Is that what you're implying?
I've not heard of any provisions to remove parking for the purpose of increasing line of sight.
And the other question I had was on the front, on Main Street. Currently, I think there's allowed parking. Is that gonna continue?
Yes, and there's no provision to change the parking on the front. In fact, with the closure of the driveway, there should be opportunity for a few more parking spaces on Main Street itself.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Hurst.
My questions are along a similar line. I know reading the staff report, it made a couple of entries about or access to East Lake, but I think it really meant Brennan. So I just want to make sure that we're clear for the public's purposes and for the public record as well, that the access is not through East Lake, it's through Brennan. Am I correct?
Correct. Primary access is intended off East Lake. Excuse me, you got me confused there. Primary access, you're correct. Primary access is intended off Brennan, not East Lake. East Lake is intended for secondary emergency access.
Thank you.
Sorry for misspeaking.
Councilmember Parker. Thank you, Councilmember Hurst.
Okay, yeah, Justin, I'm confused on a couple of things. So I'm glad they went first because that let me know I wasn't the only confused one. On the parking, I was listening to it and I was reading our not 1,600 page report, and I'm looking at there's no egress or anything out onto Main Street. Like you can't come in or out on Main Street. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. There is parking on Main Street for the commercial first floor. Is that correct?
For anybody who wishes to visit downtown, may park on Main Street, yes.
Okay. All right. So then the only main exit and entrance to the lower parking lot, or the parking lot that's on the first floor, is coming through Brennan Street on that alley?
Yes, so from Brennan Street, you would drive in, and then there would be, let me see if this graphic might help illustrate that.
Okay.
So Brennan is on the right, Main Street's on the left. So that, if you can see my cursor, if you were to enter in here, you'd go straight through a gate into a outdoor parking area, and then into the building itself here. The circulation pattern is to round the corner, and those that are exiting will come out here and then come back down the driveway to Brennan. Now, this open
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to mention that there's this open area here. And let me just bring up, I have another slide to help illustrate that. There's an area here in which there's an existing parking lot and driveway that extends towards East Lake. And the intent here is to provide emergency access, as all developments require secondary emergency access.
Okay.
Of this type.
So leave that one on, because that actually gives me a good sense of it. So over there where the alley is, that's coming out onto Brennan Street. Yeah, what is the width of that alley?
20 feet.
And, okay, somebody can help me with this. 2 cars together going down that alley?
Yeah, the city standard for driveways with no parking on either side is 20 feet. So you'd have 2 10-foot drive aisles for cars going in either direction. And that's the city's requirement.
Okay, that's the city's requirement for it. And how many of these do we have in the city?
How many, what exactly?
What you were just talking about the requirement of this kind of drive area,
Yeah, so
this alleyway.
Any residential development that has a driveway for cars going in and out would have to have at least 20 feet. So that's standard. That's what most developments provide.
Okay, and how many of these developments in the city, just out of curiosity, do we have that are going to have, how many parking spaces is that in there? Is that like 56? So 56 cars approximately daily in and out, side by side. Do we
Yeah.
have anything that's comparable?
Well, comparable development would be the applicant's other development down the street called the Terrace at
Uh-huh.
445? I forget the exact address on Main Street, but just a block down. That's will be a comparable recent development.
Okay. And that's the same developer, right?
Correct.
So, and then I was curious because I was reading in there that they hadn't agreed upon the easement, that's something that they're working on still, and that would be required by the city. But they have not, at this time, while we're discussing this approval, agreed upon that yet. Is that correct?
So during the planning commission, representative for one of the property owners both attended and wrote in a letter questioning whether the applicant to the property owner has secondary emergency access rights as shown here. And so one of the conditions that we modified was to require that they demonstrate that they do. In communication with the applicant, they've indicated that they have those rights and they would have to provide their recorded documents to demonstrate it prior to any building permit being able to move forward.
Yeah, Alan?
When the project went to the planning commission, there was some confusion between the neighbor and the developer about some recorded documents. This is a very old city block with what they call a meets and bounds description. So you go 20 feet this way, 30 feet that way. The title company for the neighbor, I believe, I'm reported, missed some recorded documents. So it turns out back when, before Sumitomo Bank was Sumitomo, they purchased Bank of California. Bank of California apparently had a recorded mutual access agreement to get people from Sumitomo, Bank of California out to East Lake and back. So there is a recorded document. It's beyond what the city is requiring. All the city is requiring is secondary access for fire vehicles. But they do meet the standard, and we just, to make absolutely sure, it's impose that as a condition to provide us with that recorded document, which everybody seems to believe, both sides believe they have.
So you're saying that Sumitomo Bank, previously Bank of California, that they had a written agreement of the easement there that goes along with whatever
there was a
real estate
recorded
agreement at this time? Yeah.
There's a recorded easement from the former owner of this property that is being developed now to get it out to East Lake, recorded. It's just that the title company didn't find it until the last few days. They found it, and everybody agrees that it exists, and it would provide the city's required access for fire vehicles and perhaps more, but it meets the city's requirements. We haven't seen it. Both sides, both the developer and the neighbor, agree that it exists, and we will have it produced for us as a condition, just as staff has written it. So we're satisfied that that's okay.
Okay, so I have a question then. So you said emergency. So the emergency area over here, that's the city is requiring that for a fire truck and whatever it is to be able to get to that property. Is that correct?
Back to Justin.
Yes.
That's Justin.
Yeah. So the fire department for projects want to make sure that they have access to the rear as well as the front of a building. And so this could provide secondary emergency access as you come off from East Lake to this site in that configuration. So,
but that's not a road that the inhabitants are going to be able to leave and exit from their property.
Well,
right,
the shortest route for them to leave would be go directly to Brennan along this route. Currently, there is unrestricted access to the parking lot, which has unrestricted access to this parking lot area and drive that enters into East Lake. And so that may be an option, but that's not necessarily the intent.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to figure that out and what kind of repercussions that could have for the future. I have to say I am truly worried about this small right-of-way driveway for that amount of people and going on to Brennan. And I'm just thinking of our downtown plan and how that's going to put a little bit more pressure on Brennan. So I'm just concerned by it. That's why it started, rolling around in my head. So I think you've answered as much as you can at this point. We don't have an official agreement. Alan says they've both agreed that there is something that exists, but it's not in this document or what we're approving tonight. Is that correct?
Correct. The document exists. They have to show it and satisfy staff and the city attorney that it exists. Everybody concedes that it exists. We just haven't physically got it here. I also want to, Justin can speak to this, but my understanding is that the traffic study that was done for this project indicates, in my layman terms, that the traffic impact of this development is less than the commercial use when it was a bank. Now, I may have got that wrong, but I think that's what's going on here.
Yeah, so if you look at the square footage of the former bank and you take ITE's trip generation rates, you get an estimate for how many traffic would be generated by a use of that. And compare that to what's proposed here. And this is a little bit less. Now, also bear in mind that the residents for a 50-unit apartment complex like that, they won't be entering or leaving all at the same time. So when you look at the peak periods in the morning, in the afternoons, you're looking at it, a large portion, but not all of them entering or leaving at the same time. And so you can imagine that on average, you might have during even the peak periods, maybe a car every minute or two coming to and from the site.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, the last time that bank was there was what, 20-something years ago?
That's correct.
Okay, just checking. We were a little different on Brennan Street with that at the time, the amount of population. So I'm just looking at it and I see that and I hear you. And I know in the pandemic, we're all working from home. That may change again. And then everybody's heading out and everybody's heading back in. I just worry about it. That's okay. But thank you very much, Justin. You've answered, whether I'm still concerned with it or not, you've answered the questions and clarified it. And thank you for this map because it really does help. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Parker. Councilmember Garcia.
Justin, I just have two questions for you. The first one, I need some clarification. Am I understanding correctly that the reason this development can qualify for a density bonus is because 20% of those units will be affordable? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and then you mentioned when you were talking about that, you mentioned about a concession. And the concession I heard, if I heard it correctly, was that there would be no on-site parking for the restaurant. Could you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so the concession from the on-site requirement for commercial parking is that that not be required. And the basis for that is that it's in the downtown environment and the cost to do so would require either going below ground, which is much more expensive, or continuing above ground, which would require even taller building and providing more parking within the building. So both of those aspects would require a lot more cost. When requesting concessions, one of the bases for doing so is that it would have a cost reduction effect to allow the project to move forward.
Yeah, okay. And then so is there not an expectation that there's going to be a lot of need for parking besides what's in front on Main Street?
No, the expectation is that the parking would be accommodated by existing parking on the street or in nearby parking lots that the patrons of the restaurant could use.
Okay, okay. My second question is, this complex is going to be affordable because of state legislation, not local legislation. And in terms of that state legislation, does it ever say in terms of the amount of affordability? If like there's going to be 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, are they going to be balanced amongst all different types, or are they going to be just one type of unit for to be affordable?
Just to clarify, the affordability requirement is based on the city's local affordable housing ordinance. So that requirement is the city's requirement that they have to abide by. So that 20% is to meet city's requirements. And because they are required to that, they also are eligible for state density bonus law, both for increasing the number of affordable units, but increasing the number of overall units, but also requesting the 2 concessions. So just to distinguish between the two. And yes, they would have to abide by the city's requirements for having a range of affordable units for the site. So that includes low to Section 8 type housing
Yes.
for this project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Garcia. Councilmember Estrada. Councilmember Estrada, you're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor.
You're reading your lips though.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Justin, for your presentation. I too would like to continue beating the dead horse, asking about Brennan Street. And my concern a little bit is more with pedestrians that would walk up in front of the entrance and the exit, because I know that we have the building on the left, and I believe we have, is it a bush or we have trees on the right-hand side?
Let's see if I have so this gives you a general layout. Let's see if we have anything that gives a little bit more, speaking to what you're referring to. I don't think we do, but to your point, if you, let's just leave that one up.
I think that one's fine, yeah.
So the building, as you can see there, the existing building, in line with the sidewalk. So as any cars coming to and from would be passing that location. So let me see if let me let you ask your question one more time just to make sure I understand.
Okay, so let me give you an example. Like at the garage over on West Beach Street, you know, when there's a car coming in, it makes a noise, right? It lets the pedestrian know, okay, there's a car coming. I can't see it, but I know it's coming. And I think that's really ingenious because again, for like in this example, like if I'm coming from Pizza Mia, like I can't see the car, right? And the car can't see me. And so will that mirror be enough for everyone to sort of see each other? Or will there be something that let the pedestrian know like there's a car coming? Or are we just sort of hoping that people will drive very slowly and be mindful of what they're doing on the road?
Sorry for scanning through this real quickly, but
yeah, it's okay.
Both the convex mirror requirement, but also as part of that same condition 17, there would be a sound light alert system that would be installed. So there'd be both.
Okay.
And again, that's intended to improve both the visibility and to draw people's attention to pedestrians.
Perfect.
To know that cars are coming.
Thank you for that, Justin. Will the general public still have access to that little alleyway? Because a lot of people would go and park in the back to go into like Pizza Mia or some of the other businesses there. Would that just would the parking there disappear, or would people be allowed to go in?
There's no gate off of Brennan. So as you enter that current driveway, you can continue to access it. The gate is once you get onto the property and into the parking lot for the residents.
Okay.
So that wouldn't restrict access to the driveway at present.
Okay, perfect. And then my final question is a little bit related to what Council Member Garcia was asking. And I guess my first question is, do we know, and I guess we would have to look back at the terrace, right?
Yes.
What kind of occupants come in to inhabit these apartments? Is it people that live here, that work here?
I would have to defer that question to the property manager and owner. It's one and the same.
Okay.
I don't have any information on the tenants of that building.
Okay. And so I guess, and then I don't know if you would know or have information on this, but do we do we have any sort of like rental programs for, say, people that maybe make too much to be considered for like Section 8 or for the affordable housing units, but maybe don't make enough for, because the rent is between $1,700 and what was the figure, 2,000 something, right?
I think that's right. Again, I would have to defer to the applicant on what the proposed rents are for these units.
Okay.
Now, as far as the 10 affordable units, some of them would be required for Section 8 voucher. So those would be eligible for those particular units. If that answers your question.
Okay, but you don't know of any sort of rental program that we have that could help those sort of people that are stuck in the middle, where like they make too much but not enough to maybe get an apartment there if they really wanted one or something like that?
I would have to talk with our housing manager if there's any additional programs that people might be eligible for to help afford rent. That's in his purview, and so I'm not an expert on that.
Okay. Okay.
I can just jump in and help with that question. We do, the affordable housing program has a range of eligibility categories and income categories. And I think if you looked at those, you'd be surprised at how high the income level actually is with the moderate and above moderate levels. And that's the goal, really, is to reach those that are right, they're stuck in the middle. Exactly.
One thing I'm remiss in pointing out is that keep in mind that these units are relatively small in footprint. And so by design, particularly the studio and single bedroom units are more affordable just by the smaller size compared to larger units would command a higher price or a higher rent.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the information.
Thank you, Councilmember Estrada. Anybody else? All right, we will go to the applicant. Oh, do you have another question? Or did you ever go?
Yeah, no, I went. I wanted to follow up on a question that Rebecca had brought up and made me think about it. On the part of Rebecca, the city councilman Garcia brought up the point of the egress. Is there going to be a fence from allowing folks to exit onto East Lake from that property, and just have a Knox box for the fire department to access it?
Well, there'll be a Knox box for the gate portion.
On the East Lake side, not the Brennan side, but the East Lake side facing the East Lake.
Let me speak to that. It's up to the developer and the owner of the property. I don't think they anticipate that simply because I believe the owner of this particular project has a right to pass. The property carries forward a right to pass all the way out to East Lake. But that's not a condition to the development. The condition of development is emergency access so that fire trucks won't have to turn around inside there. That's all the city's requiring. But that's a good question. You could ask the.
So okay, I guess, and then they will be able to exit onto East Lake, since there won't be no type of gate there.
Right, I believe that to be true.
And then on the other follow-up question that Councilman Rebecca brought up to me was that, she was asking about the percentage of affordable units and being, how are we going to make sure that the 2 bedrooms and 1 bedrooms and studios, is that your job, Susie, and ensuring that they get distributed equally?
Yes, so the project will be subject to an affordable housing agreement, and that will be monitored annually by our affordable housing division.
So, and I bring this up because I'm saying,
yeah,
if it's only 10 units, is it just going to be the 2 bedrooms and studios are going to be divided 5 and 5, or are we going to try to split it?
It has to be, our ordinance outlines the process, but it has to be split equitably between all the different unit designs and location within the project. So it'll be a mix of the studios 1s and 2s. It's proportional. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And a 2 bedroom per the county, I think, is $2,700. That's that's Section 8. Okay, so can I get the applicant, please? Oh, Bill, you're on mute.
Jimmy, you said earlier that you could read my lips.
I know. Well, I had to find the box where you were first, and then I.
Okay. Hey, thank you. Let me go ahead and start over if you don't mind. First of all, good evening, Mayor Dutra, council members, and city staff. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present from a developer's perspective our newest project known as the Residence at 558 Main. The Residence is a 4-story mixed-use project consisting of 50 residential units and approximately 2,000 square feet of commercial shop space. The property was a former bank with drive-through teller services. The property was purchased by the Hanson Family Trust in February of 2019. Upon closing and prior to demolition, the property was used for police training and SWAT operations. In April of 2019, the former bank building was razed and the site was leveled in preparation of the future development plan for the site. Over the past 2 years, the various studies and reports have been completed and the development team worked with the city to entitle the project. Our development team includes Pacific Coast Development acting as the developers, Belli Architectural Group serving as the architectural firm, Roper Engineering providing the civil engineering, Lewis Landscape and Design providing the landscape design services, Salem Geotechnical Engineering providing the geotechnical services, as well as Biggs Cardoza providing the structural engineering services. The entitlement process over the past 2 years has transformed the project into its current state. The project received Planning Commission approval and recommendation to the City Council on January 11th, 2021, and tonight is submitted for review and consideration by the City Council. Should the City Council approve the project this evening, we'll proceed with construction drawings and seek subsequent approval of the building permit with anticipated groundbreaking late Q3, early Q4 of this year. The construction period will last between 18 and 20 months with anticipated occupancy in the summer of 2023. The finished project will provide 15 studios, 29 one-bedroom units, and 6 two-bedroom units. The project will include 20% of the total unit count to be affordable units, helping to provide the supply side of the housing dilemma we are facing throughout this county. The developers have been sensitive to the impacts of any project in the downtown. The developers hired Kittleson Associates to provide the traffic impact analysis for the specific project. The TIA has been provided to the City Council with a complete package for review. The TIA concluded the proposed project actually has reduced the impact on the traffic on the site, the various passive access, as well as the surrounding traffic intersections. Page 28 and 29 details the proposed trip generation and has determined the trip generation has actually been reduced by 41.6% in the AM from 48 to 20 and 61.76% in the PM from 102 to 39 trips. The 20-foot right of way has been established and used for the past several decades by the adjacent property owners. The residents will use ingress and egress to Brennan Street provided by their fee simple parcel. The dispute that evidently arose between an adjacent property owner and our project was on their shoulders, and it was determined through research on their part that they acquiesced and realized that we do in fact have a deeded 20-foot right away. The city attorney, Al Smith, spoke to it earlier this evening, and he has received a letter from the adjacent property owner's attorney advising of such. We are formally requesting your support and approval of the residents at 558 Main this evening. On behalf of Neva Hanson and myself, William Hanson, we thank you for your consideration and welcome any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Are there any questions for Bill Hanson? Councilmember Garcia.
Good afternoon or good evening. My question is about, if I'm understanding correctly, the floor, the ground floor is going to be a restaurant. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Do you anticipate that that restaurant won't be able to be used until summer of 2023, or will that restaurant be used beforehand?
The project will not be, to answer your question, Councilmember Garcia, the restaurant won't be able to be occupied until the summer of 2023. It's a complete project, so we're going with a podium, which is a concrete structure 15 feet in the ground, and then we'll build a stick frame housing above that, just like we did down the street for the terrace. So the restaurant will come in and will be built simultaneously, won't be ready for occupancy until we actually get final on the building.
Okay, thank you.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
Any more questions? Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yeah, I just want to follow up on what you said, Mr. Hanson, on the egress and the right of way, and that you found that the property owner found the supporting right of way on the 20-foot egress to Brennan Street. I had an understanding that it was that we.
Let me correct you. Hold on.
I thought-
Councilmember Gonzalez, there's no, it's not a right of way to Brennan Street. It was a right of way to East Lake. And we do have a deeded recorded right of way to East Lake. And that's what he acquiesced to today. So I just wanted to clarify, it's not about Brennan. We actually own the property we have two parcels, the 30,000 square feet, which is at 558 Main. And then we have the adjacent parcel, which connects our primary parcel to Brennan Street. So that is our own fee simple property.
Okay, yeah, because and I just wanted a clarification because you had mentioned that right of way egress was on the Brennan Street. And from listening to the lawyer, I understood it was the East Lake side that we were looking for that right of way.
Correct. And that right of way, we've had a copy of it the whole time. And the adjacent part, it's not really the adjacent, it's 4 properties over the corner of Main and East Lake. And that's the Jefferson Hotel. And that property owner had asserted that there may or may not be a 20-foot right of way. And I was contacted, well, actually the city was contacted by Mr. Newman, and Mr. Newman participated on the January 11th Planning Commission meeting and objected to a right of way. And at that point in time, I said, well, we know what we have. And if there's a dispute, it's certainly not in the purview of the Planning Commission and or the city council. It's a property rights issue. And so what I suggested to Mr. Newman is that he research it and discover the existing right of way, which in fact he did. And I said at the evening of the Planning Commission, I said, and if there's a dispute, you're more than welcome to file suit and we'll, gladly defend it. But what, the thing is, we're not going to go ahead and proceed if we don't have ingress and egress. And so we knew what we had, but other folks had to get up to speed.
Question on the egress to the East Lake side. Is there going to be a fence there that won't allow folks to go from Brennan to that back parking lot?
No, absolutely not. In fact,
that's still going to be accessible?
It's going to be accessible. And the only thing that'll be non-accessible will actually be inside the interior of the 30,000 foot lot. And then there will be a 20-foot wide right of way that will maintain from East Lake all the way through to Brennan, or conversely from Brennan Street along that 20-foot right of way, which is our parcel, all the way through, then going across to the adjacent parcel, which is the 2 buildings that are right next to our property. And then there used to be a city leased parking area back there. In fact, the city let that lease expire in July 1st of 2019. So that's fee simple property. However, there's a right of way that goes right down the middle of that. And then it goes to the old Miramar parcel and then behind the Jefferson.
Okay, thank you.
So, more than welcome. Thank you.
Any more questions from Mr. Hanson? Councilmember Estrada?
Good evening, Mr. Hanson. I don't know if you had an opportunity to hear the question that I asked Justin, but do you have a sense of the individuals that'll be renting units with you? Do you know if do you have a sense of whether most of them will be living in town or working in town, or I don't know if you can even sort of anticipate something like that?
Well, Councilmember Estrada, thank you so much for the question. And I did in fact hear that was actually question number 3 on your list of questions. However, what I would like to comment about is due to fair housing, we cannot comment actually whom is living in like the terrace or anything. What I can share with you, a snapshot of a prediction of the folks that will be living at the residence: first responders, nurses, blue collar, construction, field workers, missionaries. That's a sampling of what the folks are. Now, let me share one more thing because this is critically important. The vast majority of folks that are living at these type of apartments, it's either 2 people or 3 people and they're splitting the rent. What our projects provide, as opposed to the other projects that other people do, we provide water, sewer, garbage, electricity, cable TV, internet. So our package in addition is about a $250 a month package. We do that at the residence, we do it at Main Street Studios, we do it at East Lake Studios, and we'll continue to do it in our future projects, including the residence at 558 Main.
Okay, I understand the housing loss. Thank you for answering the question, Mr. Hanson. Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you. My watch just told me to breathe. Okay, anybody else? All right, let's go. Let's go out to the public for any comments. Tamara?
Go ahead, Steve.
Well, yes, city council members, Mr. Mayor, dear Mr. Mayor. This is a lovely project. I really like what Mr. Hanson is proposing. I think it will add much to the classiness of Main Street. It does look a little bit Victorian. And I'm so glad they're going to be trees. Thank you, Mr. Hanson, putting some Japanese maples and olives and olive trees and succulents. It really will look nice with some of that. You've done a great job. You've done a wonderful explanation, but it only provides 10 affordable units. Ladies and gentlemen, we need a lot more than just 10 affordable units. We need hundreds of affordable units. And while this is a great way to take place for that rather ugly old bank, we need a lot more. And so I'm asking you please to vote for this and encourage Mr. Hanson to propose more of them and other builders who will build affordable housing, because $1,700 a month ain't affordable. My mortgage for my 2-bedroom house that I own is $200 less than that, and I bought it 6 years ago. We got a group of homeless people that's expanding next to Safeway. And yes, Jimmy, I know it's not within the city boundary, but it's awfully close. And we have to provide housing, folks. We can't just let them live under freeway overpasses or by creeks or behind Home Depot or where I was yesterday, or I should say a week ago Sunday at Ramsey Park, cleaning up trash. We've got to create more housing for people, and this is a good project. And I congratulate Mr. Hanson for doing such a good job, and it's going to look lovely there. So thank you very much, and please vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. We appreciate it. Yes, and most people, their mortgage is less than other people's rent, so you're very correct. The next caller would be Gabe. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Gabe Medina, District 2, Aurelio's district. I am in total disagreement with this project. We are currently working on a documentary on gentrification in Watsonville right now, and Mr. Hanson's name and along with his projects have floated to the top of our list of gentrifiers who are coming into our community and creating unaffordable housing. 10 units out of the amount that he has allocated, that is ridiculous. Our city is being pushed out. They're going to Salinas, they're going to Gonzales, they're going to Soledad because we're not listening to them and their needs. We are a predominantly agriculture city. What farm working family is going to be able to afford this building, to be in this building? None. I have interviewed several people in the downtown area who have noted that many of the people living in the building that Hanson says that he can't say are not from the area. They are highly from Silicon Valley. They are coming over here, taking up space that is needed for our brown community, for our community that is struggling right now during a pandemic. If you are to approve this, you are telling young millennials, young families out there who are struggling that you do not care about their housing needs, but you do care about what these big developers want from us in our city. I want to see more people from our community in these buildings, and the Hansons are not doing that. They have missed the mark again and again and are divisive when people of color challenge them. If you go and Google conversations that the Hansons have had, you will see how they treat this community. It's not from a place of love. It's from a place of wanting more money. So I urge you guys to totally vote against this, and let's go back to the drawing board. Let's think of what we want in downtown, and that should look more like affordable housing for 70%, not 20%. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe.
Go ahead, Angelica.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Angelica Martinez, a leader with COPA and a resident of Watsonville. COPA is a nonprofit organization of 28 member churches, congregations, and nonprofit in Trick County. I'm here to express COPA's support of the two Eden housing projects at 1482 Freedom Boulevard and the project at 55A Main Street. We have talked to hundreds of families and the need to have more affordable housing in our community. It's highly needed, especially for our extremely low income families. We ask that you please approve the Eden housing proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ellie.
Hi, my name is Ellie, Watsonville District 7. So the first thing that I want to say is that 1,700 is not affordable housing. So I want to know what we can do to change that. 2,700 for Section 8 is ridiculous. And Dutra, you snickered, right? Because I felt it. I'm like, yeah, how is that Section 8? It's so ridiculous. And for that snapshot to say that field workers are going to be living in this place, not at that price. I think that it's just a fake snapshot. It just makes me question what other snapshots you have, right? Because if you're thinking field workers are going to live in your building, what research really have you done into our city? Most importantly, my dilemma with this project is that it goes against the Downtown Planning Commission that we've had, because with the Downtown Planning Commission, what we want, right, is to have more affordable housing. Well, when we say market value housing, we already have the terrace. So with the terrace and now with this one, where are we leaving space in our Downtown Planning Commission to put that affordable housing? Because we've had those conversations. I would really like to ask, this is already gone off, right? This man is going to get what he wants. He's going to continue to gentrify Watsonville. What I want to know is what can we do to change our ordinances, to change these plans so that it's not just 20% required, so that we can up that? Because you're right, Hanson, there is a housing dilemma. There's an affordable housing dilemma, and you're part of the problem. You're not part of the solution, even though that's what you're trying to do. And please do not laugh when our community members are making points, because it comes off as divisive, like Gabe said, and it comes off as rude. Like, we're here, we're trying to learn, we're trying to get involved. And when you laugh at what we're saying, just don't. This goes against what we've been talking about. This goes against what we've been planning in the planning commissions. This is not affordable housing that we've been saying we want downtown. So do we really want to help our residents? Or do we want the richer to get richer and the poorer to get out of Watsonville? Because that's the sense that we get with these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie.
Go ahead, Raid.
Yes, good evening, council members, Mayor, Raid Farhat, local business owner here in Watsonville.
Sounds
Go
like
ahead,
there's no
Raid.
connection. Sounds like he may have.
Could you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
So I just wanted to bring up a couple points of interest to talk about and thank the Hansons for even bringing a project like this forward. What people fail to realize is the amount of money and resources and cost and time that takes into developing these projects. And as developers, they have choices as far as where to develop. So I want to thank the Hansons for developing in Watsonville and bringing beautiful buildings and the much needed housing, both market rate and affordable housing. The speakers who spoke before, I agree with them on some part that there is a need for housing, and that is a need. It's not to blame the Hansons or other developers for bringing that in here. The affordable housing and the cost of construction and what it costs to develop these projects, a lot of that has to do with the fees that we're charging, the impact fees alone. I mean, you guys should realize that there's probably millions of dollars going into impact fees, both school fees, developer fees, building permit fees, impact fees that go back into the community. Bill and his wife are proven developers in Watsonville. Look at their projects that they've done. They're great landlords. They keep their buildings beautiful. We should be grateful for them coming into Watsonville. So I urge the city council to support this project, and just to piggyback off everything else, support other projects that come through that are well thought out projects and would make a better better community for all of us, both brown, white, pink, red, orange, whatever color it is. It's annoying sometimes when everybody wants to throw the race card out here. Bill and his family are some of the most generous people in Watsonville, and they do look out for the brown people and the white people and everybody else. So thank you for your time, and I hope you guys support this project.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Natalie.
Hi, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Natalie with Regeneración Pájaro Valley Climate Action. And I've said before, we have a deep commitment to funding for a just and sustainable community. And I would also like to point out that this project only provides the very minimum of 20% affordable housing with just 10 units and 40 at market rate. Yeah, so $17.50 per month. I work full-time in Watsonville, and I can tell you that I wouldn't even qualify for that. And so I would like y'all to consider the impacts of increasing housing costs, which could include increased rates for other Watsonville residents, not just the ones living in this complex, in a time where everyone is facing financial hardships. So I hope that the council considers the long-term impacts of building more units that are not affordable to the majority of Watsonville residents. The pandemic continues to cause financial and social devastation throughout South County, and I do not believe that this unaffordable complex properly addresses the worsening housing crisis in our area. And I would also just like to add the contrast that the Eden complex will be providing 53 affordable units compared to the just 10 out of 50 here. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
That concludes public comment, Mayor. There's
Okay.
no more hands up.
Let's bring it back then to the city council for comments and a motion. Councilmember Montesino.
Yes, we need housing. And I understand people's feelings about housing, that we need affordable. That's why, in our next agenda item, there's going to be some affordable one. But even in this one, there's 10 affordable units. We need both. You're right. Some people are right that we're being pushed out of our community. But by not approving projects like this one, we keep, people leave more. So I believe this is a good project. So I want to make the motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Montesino. Can I get a second? Councilmember Gonzalez, thank you.
I'll second it.
Um,
Can I comment now?
Yes,
Mayor?
absolutely.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, looking at our community and its growth, that is obviously going to grow, projects like this do as well, because they increase the property tax value of that property, just simply that, which will generate funding for us as a city. And those are the things that we need to also focus on, that, when there's old sites that haven't been developed, the property value still sits idle, and the tax rate is still low. When properties get developed, the property values increase, and we get more tax return on that. So it's a city that does us good. And we have good developers coming out and developing within our community that have been in our community, because Mr. Hansen's father was a real estate here in this community for many years. So they're not from the outside. They're community members. And we need to continue to support projects like this on our downtown area. And yes, I agree with the comments that were made. We do need to increase the percentage as a city council. We may need to look at that for affordable units that are going to be built downtown. Maybe we should push it to 25, because it is at 20 now. So those are the actions that we can take as a city council to try to create more affordable units downtown. But again, there's a diversity of folks within our community that still need to be able to have affordable units. And just a good mention, our healthcare workers, our teachers, that are starting, that can afford these kind of units to get going, are really important key elements. So I support this all the way. And I just hope that he can build it quicker. Thank you.
Thanks. Hear that, Bill? Build quicker. Anybody else? Councilmember Estrada.
Thank you, Mayor. I do want to echo with what my colleague, Councilmember Montesino, said, that throughout the entire state of California, there's a housing crisis. Every community needs housing. And we need our neighbors too to help out, you know, areas in Monterey County, other areas in Santa Cruz County to do their part. Because I think it's also a bit unfair to sort of expect Watsonville to have all the affordable housing in the entire region, you know? And so I do want to commend the city and staff for, you know, I think we'll probably get close to meeting our RENA numbers, which I don't know if any other jurisdiction will get close to, but you know, we've already approved the Miles Lane project. We're gonna, I think, if all goes well, approve the Eden housing project. That's affordable housing. I sort of agree with my colleague, Councilmember Gonzalez. I think we have to figure out ways to help those people that are sort of stuck in the middle to be able to get a place with Mr. Hansen or at Eden or wherever, you know, whatever sort of options we have in the community. And if it's looking at increasing our affordable unit ordinance to 25%, I'm open to it. We have a down payment plan for homes. Maybe we need something like that for rental assistance. Natalie and Ellie both said that, you know, 1,700 is not affordable for a lot of families. That's absolutely true. But what can we do? What programs can we bring in to maybe help these people, these individuals, be able to get a place of their own and stay in their community and not feel like they have no other option but to leave? And so I will be voting to approve the project, but yes, we need as many units as we possibly can get. So thank you, Mayor. I yield my time.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilmember Hurst?
You know, the public and the council have talked about improving downtown for 30, 40, 50 years, probably a lot longer than that, actually. And so here's a project that actually puts some value in the downtown and creates not just residents, but an economic opportunity as well. And so I'm glad to see this get approved and move forward. I'm also glad to hear all the comments this evening because they are, you know, many comments are quite accurate that we need a higher level of affordability and we need more opportunities to house people. And so let's move this one forward, okay?
Thank you, Councilmember Hurst. I guess this, anybody else? All right, let's go to vote. Councilmember, Ms. Flores.
Estrada,
Aye.
Garcia,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Hurst,
Yes.
Montesino,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Dutra.
Yes.
The
Thank you.
motion carries.
All right, we will go to 9B, public hearing to consider approval of density bonus and design review permit for construction of a 53-unit affordable housing project at 1482 Freedom Boulevard. This is recommended by the Community Development Director, Miriam. Just so people know, that's the parcel located right next to Wendy's. It's vacant right now. And this will be also presented by Principal Planner Meek.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council and the public. I'm Justin Meek, Principal Planner, and I'll also be presenting this project as well. Give me 1 second. Bring it up. There we go. Yeah, technology, there we go. As with before, the general layout for this presentation will include a discussion of the existing location and proposed project. A similar procedure as we talked about before. The discussion you'll see for this residential project is a little bit different, and I'll go into that because of SB 35, as well as the findings that are applicable in relation to objective standards without any discretion about compatibility and other concerns of that nature. And then finally, a recommendation to council for your consideration. As previously mentioned, this particular site is located on the southeast corner of Freedom and Atkinson. It's currently vacant. It's in an area that's designated for commercial development, and it's in the Thoroughfare Commercial Zoning District. Nearby areas include a range of commercial and residential uses, as shown here in this aerial photograph. Just to the south, it shares a boundary with Wendy's as well as a mini storage facility. To the rear are residential development, there's single family, and nearby are some multifamily structures. And of course, along Atkinson and across Freedom are a mix of various kinds of strip commercial or thoroughfare type commercial uses that take advantage of the arterial of Freedom Boulevard. The proposed project involves 2 3-story buildings that will provide 53 affordable units. As shown on the slide, there's a range of 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom units for the overall project. This is to show an illustration of the ground floor and the layout of the 2 buildings. There's again one rectangular building near Freedom and a more of an L-shaped building towards the interior in the middle of the site with parking lots on either side. As you go into the 2nd and 3rd floors, it just shows that it has the same overall configuration as well as some solar panels that would cover some of the parking on the rear parking lot. The layout of the bedrooms are, for 1-bedrooms, are typically just over 500 square feet, as shown in this configuration here. And the 2-bedrooms showing here also, where you have a master bedroom and smaller bedroom in a living area that has an open seating environment for the kitchen. And then the 3-bedroom units, as you can see here, 2 bathrooms, a master bedroom, 2 master bedrooms and a smaller bedroom, and a little bit more room, close to 1,000 square feet for the 3-bedroom layout. And those are typical layouts that vary a little bit depending on the portion of the building. Site amenities include a wide range of passive and active outside facilities, including a 40 by 90 play field for kids to play in, next to a play area for tiny tots, as well as a family gathering area with grills, picnic tables. Just near there also is a 4-square court for kids to play on, as well as some sitting area for people to enjoy the environment under shade of trees. There are a range of support facilities in the building closest to Freedom. As shown in this layout here, there are offices for a range of purposes, as well as a community room. There's a computer classroom, as well as maintenance shop, and of course there's laundry and janitorial rooms in this and the other building as well. The elevations shown here, the lower right elevation is the side of the building facing Freedom itself, and the lower left is the side of the building facing Atkinson. So you can get a sense of their overall use of different materials, using trim and windows as to create some, again, breaking up the wall planes and some visual interests. And these elevations show the second building, the larger building in the middle of the site, both from the interior and exterior of the site itself, from multiple angles to give the overall sense of mass and scale and use of different materials. Those materials are shown clearly here. You can see there's a range of sort of cool grays and warmer tans or cream colors, as well as composite wood siding to break up the building and have some higher quality looking materials. And in addition to that, using of some metal and bronze, again, as accent materials for visual interest. Here's an artistic rendering to show what it would likely look like from a vantage point across Freedom Boulevard towards the site with the Exchange building right next door. And another vantage point with Wendy's in view of the site. You can see the sense of scale. Like the other buildings nearby, it has flat roofs and draws on some of the color schemes nearby. Landscaping is also proposed for this project. You see it both frames the public realm along the sides of the building, as well as the interior next to the playfields and other areas where people will congregate. The parking lot to the right is mostly not landscaping, but that's because it has solar panels to cover the parking spaces. The plant palette is a range of drought tolerant plantings that would do well in this climate, as well as some more accent type plantings like the Acer rubium Armstrong trees, and I love these Latin names, the Largisterium indica and so forth, along with some salvia, some sage and things of that nature to provide for an overall nice plant palette for the site. Many of the amenities are shown on this, both for the tots and young kids that can enjoy and play, in addition to some of this furniture and benches that would be part of the gathering areas for picnics and other purposes. Here's an artistic rendering showing what it would look and feel like within the interior of the development, with the play field and the picnic benches and tot lot next door. The project also involves the provisions of, as I mentioned before, solar arrays, new site lighting, a bus pullout on Freedom Boulevard, new bicycle parking, yard storage, as well as drainage facilities and trash enclosures that are required for any residential development. This graphic, as included in the packet, shows the layout, the proposed lighting on the exterior of the buildings and along walkways to provide adequate lighting for people when they access the parking lot and then make their way into and out of the buildings. Note that these lighting fixtures also are downcast and screened so as not to create spillover into the public right-of-way or otherwise create a glare nuisance. The developer has also worked with staff on modifying the site so as to provide room for a bus pullout for a new bus station at this site. And there's a specific condition of approval that speaks to that as well that I'll touch on a little bit later. And as you can see in this on the graphic on the right, they would move in the curb, gutter, and sidewalk in, again, to make space for a bus to be able to pull up right in front of this proposed project site. Bicycle parking is both proposed inside the building and out for a total of 30 spaces for the residents to be able to store their bikes, as well as providing outside storage that is creatively built into the wall shared with Wendy's and a mini storage unit that residents would be able to store extra equipment or wares or goods that they may want to be able to store and have additional room to do so. In terms of drainage, you'll see that there is a series of landscape planters that also serve as a way to help treat and control the flow of stormwater. In addition, the development includes pervious paving in the parking lot areas, both in the central and rear parking lots, that reduces the overall imperviousness of the site, making it more permeable, and that also has a benefit to stormwater as well. And this is just a cross section showing what those planters would look like and the design of how it helps to manage and treat stormwater. As with any development, there is trash enclosures, and these meet city standards in that it has a roof covering as well as proposed drains to ensure that any rainwater that does get in there doesn't create a stormwater problem or contamination issue. As with the other project, this project also not only was a design review, but a density bonus. Obviously, this is a 100% affordable housing project. And with that, they're eligible for a larger density bonus, as well as additional concessions for a total of 4. One difference here is that Eden Housing has invoked SB 35 to streamline the approval process and ensure that the considerations by the city are conducted ministerially, which means that we're only making reference to objective standards and not anything that would involve subjective judgment. The applicant has met the eligibility requirements, and I'll demonstrate that in a few more slides, and also has provided information how they require with affordable housing dedication, prevailing wage, and skilled workforce requirements, all of which were set forth in state law. Let's see if my computer can catch up. There we go. In terms of SB 35, Watsonville is actually one of 220 jurisdictions statewide that has not made sufficient progress toward meeting their lower income RENA. So that those income categories relate to the very low and low income household categories. As you can see, there's everything from Walnut Creek to West Covina and 219 other jurisdictions. And when a project proposes a development that includes at least or greater than 50% affordability, it's eligible for this streamlining provision. The language in the state law that speaks to objective standards or objective design review standards or zoning standards means that there should be no personal or subjective judgment by a public official and are uniformly verifiable by reference to an external and uniform benchmark or criterion available and knowable by both the development applicant and proponent and public official prior to submittal. This is language that's drawn from the law itself. And so in what we're speaking about is what are the district regulations? What are the minimum lot size, the frontage, setback, heights? These are considered objective standards where you can easily reference and therefore be able to apply. Similarly, the city's residential development standards for rental projects for apartments would be another source of objective standards. And all of this was shared with the development team, and it's included in their application. They're showing how they conform to it, or with use of density bonus law have requested certain concessions from or waivers of those development standards that they're not able to meet. Otherwise, they conform with RM3 zoning district development standards and the residential development standards, such as, again, building height of up to 40 feet, making sure lot size is more than 7,000 square feet, frontage requirements of 70 feet, and so forth in terms of certain yard setbacks, open space requirements, and so forth. As well as the minimum parking requirements that are, again, set forth by state law, exceeding the bicycle requirements, make sure driveways are at least 20 feet, as we talked about before, and provide, of course, trash enclosures. These are all examples of objective standards that they comply with. As with the other project, they're eligible for reduced parking based on state law. And in this case, as with the other one, it's 1 parking space for 1-bedroom units and 2 parking spaces for the 2 and 3-bedroom units. And this is a table just showing what would the minimum parking requirement of 93. As you recall, this particular site provides a few more at 100 parking spaces. So it exceeds the minimum of 93 as laid out in this table. The requested concessions or waivers do everything to allow for example, the front yard setback of 13 feet in lieu of the 15-foot requirement. This is in large part requested because in working with city staff, they are providing the bus pull-out. And by pushing in the bus pull, they also push in the property boundary, necessitating a reduced setback requirement. Similarly, they're requesting a side yard setback of 0 feet for the yard storage units. It's considered a structure. And so to accommodate that, they're requesting a 0 setback. Lot coverage, want to exceed the 55% requirement by another 8% for a total of 63%. Similarly, reducing the zoning requirement of having a net land area. That was adopted years ago to ensure that as you add more units, you require more land for the mix of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units. That technically would require roughly 83,000 square feet, and they only have 667. So again, it's a requested concession from that particular zoning requirement. While they don't provide any private open space, I will note that the overall aggregate open space exceeds the city's requirement of 200 square feet. They're just not providing anything private in the form of a balcony for the private use of the residents. Sorry for the delay. It's like my connection's a little bit slow this evening. There we go. City also in our residential development standards has a walking distance requirement of 150 feet maximum. There are a few units that would be up to 200 feet. And so again, that's a requested concession. And then parking spaces within the side yard area in lieu of the 5-foot minimum setback. A slightly smaller parking dimensions of 9 by 18 instead of 9 by 19. And while they do provide a lot of covered parking, technically they would have to require 56 and they only provide 50, as well as because of space limitations to provide parking in tandem for total of 38. When concessions are granted, the basis for this is that they have a cost reduction component. The application does provide the following information of how not providing the private balconies and open space or patios and the walking distance would have an overall cost savings of close to $1 million. Key provisions, as with the other one, the applicant is required to enter into an affordable housing agreement. And in terms of the bus pullout, we have the specific language that the applicant should provide some more information. There's questions about undergrounding the utilities along this line and the costs associated with it. So the applicant is going to provide a cost estimate for installing the bus pullout and shelter and relocating the affected utilities, and that they will be on the hook essentially for costs associated to up to $500,000 for those improvements. As proposed, and is included in the packet, the City Council may make the required density bonus and design review findings in support of this project. And it is staff's recommendation the Council adopt a resolution approving the requested density bonus and design review permit to allow the construction of the 53-unit affordable housing project on the 1.8-acre site located at 1482 Freedom Boulevard. That concludes staff presentation, and I'm available for any questions or clarifying comments they may have.
Any questions or comments before we hear the presenters? Ms. Garcia?
Yes. I didn't read that there was any kind of traffic study, and I wondered why, since the intersection of Atkinson and Freedom Boulevard is one of the worst in Watsonville. And so was there a traffic study done?
No.
And why?
Because the project is considered ministerial and therefore not subject to environmental review. And so, excuse me for 1 second. I apologize. That's my son. So, perfect timing. When projects are considered, excuse me, Lucas, not right now. So for ministerial projects such as this, they're not subject to environmental review. Environmental review would include a traffic study and looking at the trips generated in the VMT associated with the project. Because this is considered a ministerial project as set forth by the state, it is considered it's considered exempt. It's not considered a project under CEQA, and therefore no environmental review is required for this kind of project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Councilman Parker.
That's okay.
I was
Justin, you
scrolling.
get high marks for the Lucas. That he's awesome. No, that's great. We're all doing it from home. Boy, gee whiz. I have questions about the density of this thing. I mean, I'm looking at people, I think over here at Vista Montaña and the issues, we want to get it built. You want to get people into houses. But boy, the density issue on that, where they don't have a 5-foot separation, that they have no personal space. And I guess it's really because of the pandemic that I think, God help us if we ever go through it again. But, that's the hard part. It's what was this originally approved for? Was it originally approved at 53 units?
Well, you're right. There was a separate development application that came before council a few years back, and it was a different layout. It was a market rate housing with an affordable component. It was townhome, duet style townhomes.
Mm-hmm.
The exact number I don't have off the top of my head. I think it was similar, but I don't know if it was a little bit less. I don't think it was necessarily more. But again, this area is eligible for this density. So this is not inconsistent with the city standards, because nearby zoning districts are considered high density. And the city standard for high density is up to 36.99 units per acre. So without even invoking an additional density bonus of up to 80%, they're eligible for that. They're only proposing 30 units per acre, which is what a 3-story apartment style building looked like. If they had chose, they could go 4 stories and add additional units, and they would have density bonus law to support them in that request.
Okay, well, I just have concern. I hear that there's a lot of regulations that govern what Councilmember Garcia asked, and as well as what I'm asking about. And and they all are proactive towards this. I'm just saying, I have concerns with that kind of density. And that's all. But thank you very much for your presentation and also for your child. That was great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Parker. Any other questions? I have a question, actually. Full disclosure, this is my district. And how many units are in the project right down the road on Atkinson Lane?
You're talking about, on Atkinson Lane?
Yes, the other low-income project that we just put in.
You mean on Miles Lane?
No, Atkinson.
I think he's talking about Pippin, and that's 46 units.
Thank you. Pippin is 46. And then how many parking spaces came with that?
I can't recall on that one.
Oh, okay. Because I mean, we know that parking on that street is a major issue. So that was 46 units, and how many acres was that built on?
I want to say I think it was somewhere around 3.
So 46 units were built on 3 acres, and we're building 53 units on how big is this one?
Just shy of 2 acres.
So much smaller than. We're squeezing a lot more units into a much smaller space than down the road on Pippin. Is that what I'm hearing? So
yes,
because it's considered low income, does that you're able to change the standards? Is that correct? That's what I heard. Development standards are relaxed because of that? Because it's considered low income?
Per state density bonus law, they can request concessions and waivers from certain ones. That's correct.
Right. And then so would that mean that they can get more units on a size of land that another developer couldn't? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, so if it's simply market rate housing, they would not be, for example, if they provide just 20% affordable housing and the rest were market rate, they would be eligible for a smaller density bonus, but they still would be eligible for a density bonus.
But nothing compared. They couldn't, a market rate housing company couldn't come in and build 53 units on this 1.75.
Yes, they could.
53. So then it's the same density increase.
Well, in this case, they are not exceeding the maximum density that the city allows for the site.
Okay. And then I guess the rest of them, I have other questions, but I think they're going to be aimed for the applicant. So let's bring the applicant on.
Let me stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Justin, for that presentation as well.
Certainly.
Well, good evening, everyone. Can folks see my screen okay before I get started?
Yes, Max, we can see it.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you, Justin, for an incredibly thorough presentation. And good evening, City Council members and members of the greater Watsonville community. My name is Max Henninger, and I'm a project developer at Eden Housing working on the 1482 Freedom Project. I'm pleased to introduce Jane Barr and Ellen Morris, also from Eden, as well as Jeff Zimmerman and Nick Miller from the architecture team. They're also on this meeting remotely, and they'll be available along with me to answer any questions that you may have. We're excited to get to any questions you may have, but if I could suggest holding them to the end of the presentation, I think that'll make it smoother and easier to get to them. First of all, for folks who don't know, Eden is a nonprofit affordable housing developer. Since our inception in 1968, Eden has developed, acquired, or rehabbed more than 11,400 affordable units and currently provides homes to more than 22,000 low-income residents. Eden has been in business for 50+ years, and our properties look as good now as the day they opened. We take pride in being a good neighbor and are committed to the Watsonville community for the long haul. Tonight, we're thrilled to share more detail about our plans to expand our footprint in the greater Watsonville area with a new 53-unit project. And I'll note that it's 52 rent-regulated units along with 1 manager unit. I should also say the density would be 30 units an acre, which would be about half of the project considered earlier this evening. Just getting at a question earlier about the density. So when we say affordable, what exactly do we mean? Well, let's talk about it as it applies to this project. So the rents would be anywhere between 25% to 50% of the area median income. So for say a 1-person household in a 1-bedroom unit, the eligibility would be between anywhere from $23,000 to $46,000 annually at a rent of $580 per month to $1,240 for that 1-bedroom apartment. For a larger household, say a 4-person household in a 3-bedroom unit, the income range would be anywhere from $33,000 to $66,000 annually. And the rent for that apartment would be from $860 to $1,720. We plan on serving a range of populations with this project, including families, farm workers, individuals and families experiencing homelessness, as well as people with disabilities. The project location is an infill site at the corner of Atkinson and Freedom. The site used to be the River Nursery. It's very close to amenities, a grocery store, pharmacy, schools, transit. We believe this will be a great site for affordable housing. Here's our proposed plan. We're split across 2 3-story buildings, Building A on the corner of Freedom and Atkinson, and then Building B, which is set back further along Atkinson. Building A has a number of amenities, including a community room, a computer lab, as well as on-site offices for management and services. Each unit also has its own storage locker, and you'll note that those are situated along the southern boundary of the project. Also in that area is a play field and a barbecue area, which you saw in the rendering that Justin shared earlier. The project provides 100 parking spaces split across 2 lots. The larger of the 2 lots also has carports with solar panels on top, as you'll see there. We also are proposing solar panels for the roof, which is an important component of this project as it would be 100% electric. Finally, we'll note that some of the frontage along Freedom is dedicated for a bus stop, as Justin noted earlier. Here's a direct view of the project from Freedom, and here's a view of the project from Freedom driving south. I'll close by thanking our partners. First, I want to thank the City of Watsonville and members of the council for your financial support of the project and for leading the way in the region, as this is the first SB 35 affordable project in Santa Cruz County to our knowledge. Second, we want to thank the County of Santa Cruz for partnering with Eden on a No Place Like Home application, which will support the homeless units in this project. We also want to thank the Housing Authority of the County of Santa Cruz for its commitment of 37 project-based vouchers. And finally, thank Central Coast Community Energy for financially supporting our decision to make this an all-electric building. Last but not least, we want to thank all of the members of the community who came to a community meeting we had in October to solicit feedback on the project. As always, you can email us at 1482freedom@edenhousing.org for your questions and comments. I'll turn it back over to members of the council and Justin for any comments or questions.
Thank you, Max. We appreciate your presentation. Short and sweet. Does anybody have any questions for Max? Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, my question is, are we going to have any charging units for electric vehicles on this site?
Yes, great question. I think we'd want to build the infrastructure for it so that whether or not it was included in our final proposal, if we wanted to add them down the road, we could. But I think we would be interested in adding it if we're able to secure funding for it, which I understand there may be some funding programs available.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Max, I have some questions for you. So what is the list that you will be pulling off of to give the units to?
Great question. There are several different subpopulations in the project. Let me see if I can go back to, we had a slide that that touched, whoops, that went really fast. Right, so there's a couple different subpopulations. So for the 37 units which are supported by project-based vouchers, those would come from the Housing Authority.
Of Santa Cruz County?
Correct, yep. Within that 37, those 37 units, there would also be 6 units that would support, they're considered supportive housing, so supporting families and individuals experiencing homelessness. Those units would come through SmartPath, which is the coordinated entry system for Santa Cruz County. You'll see also that farm workers are part of the proposal too. And since those units are not part of those that overlap with the project-based vouchers, those would not come from the county. And so we could potentially work with the city on what the list would look like.
So 37 units of the 53 unit project will come off the Housing Authority list.
37, one addendum to that one. So 37 of the units are supported by the vouchers, but six of those 37 are going to come through the coordinated entry system. So you're correct in thinking 37 through the county in some way, but 6 of those are really specifically through the coordinated entry.
And coordinated entry is through the Housing Authority?
It's a SmartPath, which is part of the county's continuum of care. It's a specific mechanism that counties have in California for bringing individuals and families who are homeless into supportive housing.
Okay, so the 31 are going to come from the Housing Authority.
Yeah, once you subtract it out. And I should say too, that there are many Watsonville residents who are on the Housing Authority list. So I wouldn't think of it as you know, county on one side and city on the other. There will be a lot of Watsonville residents who would be served through that component.
And you can guarantee that?
I think it would, without knowing exactly the list, I couldn't say like for sure X percentage, but I think it will be a significant percentage.
Okay, so they're basically coming off of a list. I know how the Housing Authority works. So
Sure.
It's going to be a list. They're going to pull off the top and they're going to say, you get this unit, you get this unit, you get this unit. They're not going to go down and pick. They're not going to like, look, oh, here's Watsonville, I'm picking Watsonville out. So a lot of these units, we're going to be bringing people in, which I'm assuming they did the same thing with Pippin, from other parts of the county, right? People from Boulder Creek and Santa Cruz and Capitola.
I can answer that, Jimmy. This
Yeah.
is Jane Barr. So Watsonville represents a quarter of the population of the county. And so it's likely, and more likely even the fact that Watsonville has a lower income than the rest of the county. So it's more likely that more than 1/4% of the residents of people on the waiting list are from Watsonville City or close to Watsonville and Freedom, for instance. So I think it's a high probability we'll get a lot of Watsonville residents, but you're correct. We don't have a choice in the vouchers. It goes by the time you've been on the list, and we have to respect that. And frankly, the 37 vouchers that we get are helping to fund this project. That income stream from vouchers really brings in about $7 million to the project, which we really need to make our, fill our gap of funding.
I sat on a distribution of funding for COVID for an organization to distribute throughout the county, and there are people throughout the entire county, just hundreds of people. So I think that yes, there are going to be Watsonville people on there, but we can't guarantee whether or not we're going to be getting all Watsonville people.
That's correct. That's correct.
And so the other one, Jane, I think the other units we were talking about, like farm worker housing. Now, am I correct? There are no stipulations. You can be undocumented and still qualify for these?
If Max, I'll go take that question. For our funding in our units, yes. For the Housing Authority units, if one of those families on that list is at the top of the list and gets selected, they can come into the unit, and if they're all legal residents, they'll get the whole voucher. If 2 out of 4 of the residents, let's say the parents are not are not legal residents, but the children have been born here, then they'll get 50% of that voucher. So the Housing Authority with their federal funding does need to prorate based upon the eligibility within the family.
Of citizenship. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Quick, I think you may have told me this before. What other cities have you guys built in Santa Cruz County projects? What cities? Capitola, Santa Cruz, and Scotts Valley.
We have one project in the city of Santa Cruz, and we have, Max, is it 4 or 5 in the city of Watsonville? And then in unincorporated, we have 2 mobile home parks in the unincorporated area near Dominican Hospital, for instance, and we have a mobile home park on Front Street in Watsonville. And we have Corlitas Creek, Vista Verde are in the county, and the rest, as you can see, and Nuevo Amanecer actually is in Pajaro, so that's Monterey County.
Okay.
So Pacific Link in Pajaro and Tierra and Riverside, so that's 5 projects in the city of Watsonville.
Okay, 5 or 6 projects. Okay.
5.
Oh, 5. Okay. And then we last talked, you guys were talking about the telephone pole in the front, and it sounds like in today's presentation, you guys have decided to put it underground. Did I hear the underground utilities?
So just to echo what Justin shared earlier, I think our thinking is that our first preference would be to relocate it and not underground, given that undergrounding is really expensive. However, if that was the only option, we would explore it.
Okay. And then I guess this question isn't for either of you two, but I guess maybe for our city staff. Why is Watsonville always responsible for housing all of Santa Cruz County? I mean, why are we the ones that have to pick up the burden for the entire county? And it's not even for all of our people. I mean, we get to house a portion of our residents, and then we've got to pick up the rest of the county as well. Why is that?
I'll speak up, Jenny, before staff. About 5 or 6 years ago, there was a study done countywide level for the supervisors, and there was more affordable housing in Live Oak, which was is now Mano Koenig's district, than in the Watsonville supervisory district.
Okay, but the numbers you gave me tonight, that most of them were down here, so I'm just going off of what you told me.
Well,
now.
for us, but there are other Mid-Penn, there are other affordable housing developers. There's a lot of affordable housing in Santa Cruz. There's a lot of affordable housing in Mid-County, and some of ours are in Live Oak.
Right. I think though the community, when I talk to the community of Watsonville, they feel the burden, and we also have Pippin and Mid-Penn and housing down here as well. So, I think that's a question, and we as council members have to are we willing to continue just to, be responsible for the entire county, and that's, without making sure our people are taken care of first. So, okay, thank you. Any more questions for? All right, well, let's go out to the public.
Can you please stop sharing the presentation and make my job a lot easier?
Stop the sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
One second.
All right, Raphael.
Hold on, Jimmy. It's not allowing me to see the hands up. 1 second. Go ahead, Steve.
Yes, I want to thank Mr. Henninger for making a very good presentation. I like the project. I am very worried, however, about even just getting down one way on Atkinson Lane. It's awfully crowded, and there's not a single tree on Atkinson Lane, and I don't see any trees in this project. And I'm not saying, Mr. Henninger, you have to put in a grove of redwoods, but it would be nice in the common areas where there's lawn or other ground cover to put in some patio-sized trees. Remember, with all of that carbon dioxide from cars, we need some trees to breathe it in and breathe out some oxygen, wouldn't you say? Not only that, trees soften the appearance of all that cement and all of that concrete. And it would look very nice to have some trees in there. But the Atkinson Lane issue is real. because you can't, if one car is going one direction, the other car has to literally pull over into a driveway for the other car to pass. It's so narrow. So I'm hoping the city is going to take that into account, that something has to be done with the issue of the parking on Atkinson, because it's awfully crowded. But nonetheless, I thank you for your presentation. I'm asking the city council, please vote for this. We needed it yesterday. And I also want to thank Justin for being such a great dad to his son, Lucas. Justin, I salute you. You're the best. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, looks like we have Paul DeWorkin next.
Go ahead, Paul. Paul, you may speak now. Okay, I'm going to move on to Rafael.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Rafael Hernandez. I'm the Housing Program Associate for Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, also known as MBEP. I ask that you please approve the density bonus and design review permit of this project. As we've all heard, it would provide 53 units of urgently needed affordable housing. In addition to that, the building design strives to provide energy efficient building systems, accessibility to people with disabilities, and rich community spaces. It's all electric, includes solar panels. Speaking to the demand, the need for farm worker housing was established in the 2018 Farm Worker Housing Study and Action Plan for the Pájaro and Salinas Valleys, which cited a great need for housing. And one of the main things that it cited was overcrowded living conditions. One of my main priorities is the implementation of the Farm Worker Housing Study Action Plan, and I work very closely with Watsonville City staff in that work. The City of Watsonville's housing element also reports on overcrowded living conditions and housing cost burden of about half of the renters. This is based on the 2010 census, so we know that these figures have only been further impacted since then by the rise of housing costs. MBEP's housing initiative seeks to identify and support projects like these that reflect high quality design. They're infill, they help reduce urban sprawl and meet climate action goals. And this project is aligned with all those goals. Eden Housing is also a highly reputable nonprofit development organization with over 40 years of experience in developing high quality affordable rental communities. So we asked, and this project also will help fulfill about 35% of the remaining very low income unit required in the city's RHNA obligations. So for those reasons, I ask that you support this project. Thank you. Oh, and I also echo the comments on Justin Meek and his son, Lucas. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dan, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Dutra and City Council members. My name is Jan Stokely, and I'm the Executive Director of Housing Choices. Housing Choices is a nonprofit organization serving residents of Watsonville from our office at 349 Main Street. Our mission is to create quality, affordable housing opportunities for your residents with developmental disabilities. And so we're so excited to support Eden Housing's 1482 Freedom Project. 6 of the apartments will be subject to a preference for people with developmental disabilities. Currently, Watsonville is home to 745 people with developmental disabilities. 363 of them are adults. And of those adults, 257 are living at home with aging parents. And we currently have 110 Watsonville residents who are looking for affordable housing. And the biggest challenge is that even in the most affordable housing, for the people, the residents of your community that we support, they can't afford the rents for even the most affordable apartments without project-based vouchers. So we're very fortunate to be in Santa Cruz County, where the Housing Authority is willing to partner with the city and with developers like Eden, because with those project-based vouchers, units can be made truly affordable for your residents with serious disabilities. So without those vouchers, I'm not sure that we would I don't think we'd be able to get 6 people into that project. We'll be partnering with Eden to do robust marketing to our Watsonville residents with developmental disabilities to educate them at every step of the way to be able to pursue this much needed affordable housing opportunity. So I want to thank you for all of your support and encourage you to vote for the Eden Housing 1482 Freedom Project. It serves an amazing array of high need populations. Thank you.
Michael, go ahead.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, I just want to say that was a good presentation. I like the building. It looks really nice. I like the fact that it's 100% electric. That's really cool. It's got some charging units. That's pretty cool. But the Mayor Dutra did bring out some good points there. It's basically just kind of, I think the main point is that the county is, probably putting all these housing projects here in Watsonville, and it's like, it's putting a lot of pressure on us. So that was it. But I did like the project. It's really cool. It's definitely an affordable building, not like the other one. I didn't like the other one. I didn't think that's an affordable building. But that's it. Thank you so much.
Jennifer, go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Lucas with the Central Coast Office of the California State Council on Developmental Disabilities. The State Council is established by state and federal law as an independent state agency to ensure that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families receive the services and supports they need. Through advocacy, capacity building, and systemic change, the Council works to achieve a consumer and family-based system of individualized services and supports. Increasing access to affordable and accessible and inclusive housing options is one of the 6 goal areas in our state plan. As Jan mentioned, Watsonville is home to 745 people with developmental disabilities, and approximately half of those individuals are adults, 70% who are still living at home with their aging parents. This is not by choice, but due to the lack of affordable housing options, and this need will only continue to grow. San Andreas Regional Center provides a number of services that support people to live independently in the community, but due to high rents, even in projects that are considered quote unquote affordable to many, make it impossible for Watsonville residents with developmental disabilities to actually live on their own. Eden Housing has helped to address this challenge at 1482 Freedom by collaborating with the Housing Authority of Santa Cruz County so that apartments for people with developmental disabilities will have project-based vouchers and therefore will be affordable even to people with the most limited of incomes. We really urge you to make progress in addressing the housing needs of Watsonville residents with developmental disabilities by approving Eden Housing's 1482 Freedom Project. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ellie, go ahead.
Hi, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so first I'd like to say that the community members that I've spoken to, and personally, I don't feel the burden just yet, Mayor. I believe that we need a lot more affordable housing before we can say that we're carrying the county. And I'm more worried that it may become, well, we're not doing it because you're not doing it. And then it'll be the community that will lose out. So I'm more worried about that. I think that we need a lot more affordable housing. This is affordable housing, right? These prices are way different than the other one. So it just night and day. You can see the support that showed up for this. I hope you guys approve this. I know you guys had some questions. When Max said farm workers were going to live in this building, I actually believed him. So this is the type of project, honestly, that should have been downtown, and it would align with the Downtown Planning Commission, right? Of having affordable housing in downtown as well. But regardless, I hope that we can bring more projects like these that actually do serve our community back. I do have to comment on the man that spoke before, that spoke to us like we didn't know what we were talking about because we were down, we were talking badly about his homie's project. I knew that the last project was going to pass before I showed up to the meeting. I simply want to continue the conversation on changing the ordinances that allow these type of buildings to go up. So that's why we come to our city council meetings, to continue the conversation. And the way that people present themselves and speak down to the community, it's like, do you guys want us to be involved? We're learning, we're here, we're asking questions, right? So when people show up to these community meetings that don't usually show up to these community meetings and talk down to us, it's a little like, take a step back. But I do hope this passes with flying colors, with everybody saying yes. That would be very nice to contradict the building that we passed before, that it's, and I am not burdened by the affordable housing. I need more, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anne, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Ann Marquardt. I'm a resident at 848 Buena Vista. I'm in the county, but I get to see the lights of the city of Watsonville. And I love the city of Watsonville. And I want to commend Eden Housing and Housing Choices for this project. I think this is going to be an incredibly easy project for you to approve. And I want to especially be complimentary of the 6 spaces there for residents with developmental disabilities. As other speakers have told you, this is an incredibly difficult population to serve, but an urgent population that definitely needs every resource that a community can bring to bear. One question I do have on the project, the examples that Eden Housing used for the occupancy standards, well, I'm not sure if they were occupancy standards, but the 2, let's say, units that they used as examples, one was a 1-bedroom renting for so much, but they said 1 bedroom, 1 person. And then the 3-bedroom, they used the example of 4 residents. And I do hope that the occupancy standards are much more expansive than those numbers, that they would be 2 people per bedroom plus 1 for the unit. So, and I see Jane Barr shaking your head, yes. So with that, I just have nothing but compliments for this project. And I wish you the best with getting it built and and open for occupancy as soon as possible. So thank you so very much.
Thank you, Anne.
Okay.
Let me try Paul again. Paul, are you there?
Paul? We'll come back to him.
Peter, go ahead.
Hello, am I coming through?
Yes, go ahead, Peter.
Hi, this is Peter Carter. I'm a Watsonville resident. I think this project is a great start. I really appreciate the fact that this is a 100% affordable complex, but I would like to urge the mayor and the council to build dozens more of these. Regarding the comments from Mr. Dutra about not appreciating that the city of Watsonville is taking on a larger burden as far as building affordable properties goes. I don't think the city is at the point where that is a quibble that should even be considered. At this point, Watsonville has hundreds of residents living in crammed conditions, homeless, or at risk of homelessness, and I do not want to hear my elected officials quibbling about the burden of solving that problem. What I would like to see is all of you crowing from the rooftops about and releasing ads and mailers to the effect that you are doing more and working harder than surrounding cities to solve the problem of affordable housing. That's all I've got. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Peter.
Go ahead, Gabe.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Ellie was saying that this is very night and day compared to the Hampton project to this project, but I do also see the concerns that Mayor Dutra raised. If we're going to be building in Watsonville, we need to be building for our community in Watsonville, because what that signals to them is we do not want you here. When we say like, yes, we are building this building, but it's only going to go to certain people on a list that may not be from the county. I think we really need to look into that and see what other routes that we could go to provide affordable housing. Many of you on the council are homeowners. For somebody like me who's burdened with student debt, I can't afford anything like this. Many people in the community can afford anything like this. When the pandemic hit, you know who was relied on a lot? Millennials, because we had the tech skills needed in order to keep things afloat. We organized online and we did those things. But the sad part is we still can't call Watsonville our home. Many of us have had to go to the outside where we don't even have a vote within the community that we want to be involved in. So I urge you all of you council members, start thinking like a millennial with student debt who can't afford these things. What situation would you do in that case? We're having to fight so hard to be in our city. And I hope that you really look into providing us with more housing so we could be more involved, we could be more proactive in our community, more than what we already have. And stop being comfortable that you're homeowners. Think about those people that aren't homeowners. And I really think that we absolutely need to start looking to housing projects, but also how could we get millennials into these houses? Because none of us are able to do that because of the burden of student debt. Many of you echoed, especially Hurst and Parker, teachers, right? You encouraged us to go to college. You told us that we were going to make money, but that isn't how it works right now. We can't afford houses. We can't afford cars. We're living in multi-generational households because we don't have the opportunity to live in our city. And that's because of the housing crisis that we currently face. So please just take that in consideration as you move forward with approving these projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe.
Go ahead, Natalie.
Hi, Natalie with Regeneración. I'd like to urge the council to approve this project. This project is a great example of what affordable housing actually can look like. And we can continue to support organizations that actually help residents and not the ones that put money in the pocket of private developers claiming to help residents. Watsonville is one of the few places in the Monterey Bay that has room for development, and we need to be extremely thoughtful in this development by focusing on sustainable housing that is electric, high density to avoid urban sprawl, and affordable, because housing justice is environmental justice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rogelio, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Rogelio. I'm speaking as a resident at Arista Lane. This is a great project, but I do feel the burden. It feels like we're the dumping ground for affordable housing around. It's not the first apartment complex of affordability that's going to be built. It's going to be the third one. As you guys said already, you guys are going to be bringing in 93 more cars in here. But some of them are just going to be bringing 2 cars. But in reality, how many cars do they have? Some people have 3, 4 cars that are going to be put in the street. The street's already super crowded. We have residents here fighting over their parking spot on a daily basis. So for me, it is a burden as a resident in this area. So I am hoping that the council rejects this project.
Thank you, Rogelio.
Go ahead, Citlali.
Hi, everyone. Citlali, District 2 here. I'd like to just echo a few of the things that have been mentioned already. You know, our city is definitely in a housing crisis. And just to put things into perspective, right? As a city, our median income is roughly around 24,000 a year, right? That's on average about how much people here in Watsonville make. I make well a little bit above that, right? I find myself very comfortable where I'm at, but at the same time, because our cities has such a crisis in housing, I can't afford to live here. The prices here are ridiculous. And so even myself in a position where I should be comfortable, right? I can't afford to own a home here because it's so bad. And so projects like these, I think, are going to be very beneficial to our city. But again, we want to push you all to really explore our options on how we can really bring affordable housing to Watsonville, because a lot of young people are having to take the short end of the stick here. You know, older generations were living here in a time where housing was affordable. We don't have that option. And so again, just really want to push you all, the housing complex that Hanson brought forth, like I just don't even know how our community can afford those units. But again, and a project like this that's being brought up would be beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you.
There is public comment, Mayor.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the council. Councilmember Montesino.
Yes, I'd like to move this motion along, just because we're talking about the housing crisis that we're living in. Our community needs both market rate and affordable units, and I understand the issue of the county dumping on or sort of dumping a lot of these projects on, but that's politics. We'll get there someday. Or we need better advocates in the supervisor level up there to deal with those issues. But those are my comments. Thanks.
I'll second his motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez.
Can I follow up, Mayor, with comments?
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a good project, and we're thankful that Eden was able to acquire this property, because originally it was going to be a market rate built out project. And so there's a big difference. The city has invested money into this project. And those are the things the community needs to understand, that we're partnering with Eden on building this housing units. And that's a big difference between the market rate developer, that he's putting all his money in, he's financing it. He will be getting some voucher based money off of it. But this one here is the city. So as a city, we need to figure out how to acquire more funding from the state to build units, to work with nonprofits, because Eden's a nonprofit organization. It is not a for-profit organization in a sense as like the other developer. This is going to add a lot more density to Atkinson Lane. I understand that. But again, we have to look at it. We do not have the property. We don't have the land to build big developments like Salinas is doing. And so that's the reality of it. We need to look at how our infills are going to be done. And so projects like this, apartment complexes where there's higher density are going to have to be built within our city limits, unless the county is willing to annex big portions of properties so we can have big affordable housing units built on there. That's hopefully into the future, maybe, and maybe not. But we need to take care of our what we have within our boundaries right now and do our infills and create and encourage this type of developments within our community and our nonprofits. And this is just like Miles Lane, Mid-Penn. That's another development that's also for our low-income community. And we can't control the amount of applicants so much through the housing authority, because they have a process. But we can control the farm worker housing units that are going to be given out through Eden, that's going to be working with the city to make sure that they are beginning to come in for the residents of the city of Watsonville. So, this is a good project and we need to move forward. Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion? So I'll speak. Oh, Lowell, do you want to go? Go ahead.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the mayor should always have the last word, I say.
I was just waiting.
Yeah. I'm really glad to have this discussion this evening, because, some of the public members are really spot on, and it's too bad that they weren't here 30 years ago to speak up about land use and annexations and cooperation with the county and building a bridge to better affordability and more units. So we're really kind of stuck here, and we're stuck with a vacant lot that can be used. And we're fortunate that there's a quality builder and operator like Eden come along, who has a history, local history, and has a proven track record of really helping people. And their projects are clean and well managed, and they don't tolerate a lot of nonsense in those projects either. At least I hope not. I think the demand for affordable housing, we've heard it from the public. We've heard about affordability, and here's a project that you're going to get both out of, I hope. So I was glad to read in the staff report that even the Federal Aviation Administration blessed this project, and you don't hear that in all projects, and you probably won't hear that in all future projects either. So like has been said, hey, let's move forward.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so like Rogelio, who lives in my district, came and spoke today. This is a big issue. Parking is a big issue, and the 1-unit bedrooms are going to be getting 1 parking spot. I don't know if anyone's ever been down Atkinson Lane, but it is already really, really slammed. There is 1 light on Gardner, that for that whole area, and then there are two other streets. There are two other streets, one on Blanca, one on Atkinson, without lights, and the one on Atkinson is a right turn only. We have a real big infrastructure issue. Pippin just built on that street, and there is a third project coming down the road as well. That will be a total of 3 on that little street. So we have big issues, and I get it. This is actually a really nice project. I thought it was really beautiful. I love the fact that you have the it's green. I love the car charging. It looked really pretty. I like the fact that you could put a mural on the side. It looks like it's going to pass most likely. But I think that for me, I have to listen to my residents. I was elected. Watsonville is by districts. And, we heard from at least one of my district members tonight. I've been up and down that street. I know how they feel. This is going to be high density. The unit, I approved a housing project on this before. It was 22 units, I believe. We're squeezing a lot more units in a lot smaller place. I like it, but we also have to be truthful. I can't, we need to start bringing projects in here that are actually going to be, for our people, for our community. And I know that we've been we've had the handout for years and years, and people have taken advantage of us, and we're always picking up the slack for everybody else. And that's a big problem for me. And I want projects that we're going to actually be putting our own people in. And we have to be truthful to the millennials as well. They would never get one of these projects. These people on these lists have been on lists for about a decade. The housing authority list, I don't even know if it's open right now. It's not, right, Rebecca? It's closed. So we're doing a real disservice. We have to be putting up housing that people in our community can afford and that they have an option to get. These millennials, they're not going to get a house. That's just how it is. The list is closed. So, we can continue to bring in the housing, and that's probably what's going to happen. But we got to take care of our people here in Watsonville. And, I think the project, again, is really awesome. It would have been done great in another place. I appreciate, all the hard work that's gone into it. I'm sure it's going to probably pass, but this is my district. These are my concerns, and I'm going to be voting no tonight on it. So with that, and thank you everybody for all your hard work. With that, Beatrice, could you please take a vote?
Estrada,
Aye.
Garcia,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Hurst,
Yes.
Montesino,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Dutra.
No.
The motion carries.
All right. So will we need a break, a bio break before we go on to the next one, or is the next item long?
The next item is fairly short, Mayor. If you guys would like to push through, we're prepared to do so.
Mayor,
Yes.
can I ask in Spanish if anyone is listening to the meeting in Spanish, and if they're not, then
Absolutely.
Si algunas personas están escuchando la junta en español, por favor, pueden levantar la mano de la computadora para ver si están ahí, y si no, vamos a dejar que el intérprete descanse y se pueda ir. I don't see anyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, new business, consideration of purchase and financing of heavy equipment and refinancing of solar loan. This is recommended by the Administrative Services Director, and it will be reported from Cindy. Go ahead, Cindy.
Hi, everyone. So yes, I will be fast. It's up to you how many questions you have. Okay. So yes, I'm coming here to you with an item for a financing deal for some public works heavy equipment. and for refinancing a solar panel loan. There you go. So the Public Works Department, within their 5-year capital plan that was adopted last year, had a number of heavy equipment purchases in the plan. And for various reasons, they have found that they need to move them forward. So the first is, for example, there was a sewer, a Vector truck, which is about a $500,000 item that was actually in the CIP for 2 years from now. But that current vehicle is 18 years old and it's really struggling. They're really struggling to actually keep it functioning. And so instead of waiting 2 years, they want to purchase it now. And then we just have our garbage trucks. Oh, I just went too far. So again, within the capital plan, they had basically planned to purchase one vehicle every year for the next several years. There was two planned for this fiscal year, actually. Again, these are about $300,000, a little more than $300,000 vehicles. And what happened is actually because of COVID, the current manufacturer of their current vehicles actually went out of business. And so now they are really struggling to come up with parts. These vehicles are they're spending over $1 million to maintain each year. They actually have old ones that they're pulling parts from because they can't get parts. And so they approached me and wanted to move those purchases up. You know, for the solid waste division actually doesn't have the cash capacity to do that right now. So we looked into a financing deal for that. So we went out to RFP. Well, actually, as we were reviewing the idea of financing, our financial advisors also pointed out to us that we have a solar panel lease from 2012 that was at a loan rate of 5.29%. So we threw it all into the deal. We went out to bid. We put out an RFP for banks to bid on. And what we got back was actually pretty amazing. So we received 11 banks bidding to loan us money. And the bids ranged from anywhere from just under 1% to 2.5%. So you can see on the vehicles, and so the lowest bidder was actually Bank of America, and they bid on both parts of the deal. You can see at vehicles, they bid slightly lower than 1%, and on the refinancing of the solar panels, it's just over 1%. But basically, we're getting 1%, which is a fantastic financing deal. I wish my house was that. So, so what we are asking, and refinancing the solar panel will actually save us, there was only about 6 years left on that loan. It was going to go through 2027, and it's going to save us over $200,000 in reduced interest on that remaining loan. And that goes over a number of funds, but it's primarily, I think the wastewater fund. So what I'm asking for your approval today is the approval of, so one is actually the approval of the actual purchase of the vehicles. It is the appropriations to purchase the vehicles. And then it is the financing deal for both the vehicles and the refinancing of the solar loan. And with that, I can answer any questions. I also have our financial advisor is also available, and so is Public Works if you have questions about any of those parts of the action.
Any questions for Cindy?
My poor child.
It does not look like it. No, we're going to let you go real soon, we promise.
I think Cindy gets bonus points for not skipping a beat the entire way through the presentation.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
That was impressive.
It's the terrible twos. It's the terrible twos.
No, we get it. We get
Great
it.
pair of lungs.
You were
Great pair of
good.
lungs.
Councilmember Garcia. You're on mute.
Oh.
Something's wrong.
Well.
Oh, there you go. You're here. Talk. Okay, go back. No, now you're on mute.
Okay. Now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So the question for Cindy is, I'm just curious, is the majority of information given to us was in terms of getting approval for 6 heavy equipment vehicles. And then all of a sudden we have then a request for refinancing the 2012 solar panels. And in my mind, I couldn't see the connection, why they were connected versus each coming alone.
Yeah, and they're, you know, functionally they're not connected. They're connected by the fact that when we involved some financial advisors to put together this financing deal for us, we focused on the vehicles, but they, being great financial advisors, looked at our books and said, hey, you have this outstanding loan for at 5%. If you include that, I bet you can get a better rate, and it will probably be worth it for you to refinance that deal. So they recommended to us that we include that in the deal, and they were right. So we had Bank of America then that was interested in funding and bidding on both parts of the deal, and it's now part of the comprehensive financing deal that they helped us put together.
Oh, wow, we know how to do deals then.
We have a very helpful financial advisor, Craig Hill, who actually just showed up on the screen that helped work this through with us.
Thank you, Craig. Thanks, thank you, Rebecca. Councilmember Garcia. Anybody else? Oh, okay, we have questions. Did everybody want to ask a question? Okay, we'll go with Estrada, then Gonzalez, then Hurst.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, Cindy. So are we retiring the other vehicles?
Gabe Gordo from Public Works should be somewhere in here that can probably answer that. I'm not sure if they will actually scrap them or if they will be able to sell them. I think it depends on their condition.
Good evening, Mayor. Gabe Gordo, council members, Public Works. Yes, we are going to scrap some of them. There's some that we believe we can keep as backups for in the meantime, because the orders are going to come in like two at a time. Two are going to come in first, and the other three are going to come in later. It takes about 9 months for them to build these trucks. So we're going to need to play a little bit of a musical chairs with those vehicles just to hold us till then. But hopefully by the end of the year, we're good and ready, and we have most of them gone. We will surplus them on the website, so maybe we'll get some money out of maybe steel.
Okay, you know, I just do want to just suggest, you know, if there's one that's still usable, to donate it to maybe our sister city. I know that Beatriz, Aurelio, and Rebecca can tell you firsthand that when we donated that used garbage truck to Tanguancícaro, they really were grateful for that gift. And so just a thought and an option to perhaps consider. So thank you. And thank you, Gabe.
Certainly.
Gonzalez.
Okay, I thought it was Lowe's turn, but I'll go. Quick questions. And they're going to be diesel vehicles?
Yes, they're your regular diesel vehicle engines.
Is there any alternative type of vehicle that we can purchase that be looking into the future for a cleaner emissions?
We actually are. There was some. There's a company that's manufacturing an electric garbage truck currently. It's being tested up in Northern California. We actually went and saw one. They're testing out. The issue is price though. I mean, they're new, so when any new technology comes out, they're pretty costly. They're about twice as much as what we regularly pay for a vehicle. So let's say a vehicle's like close to 400, you're paying close to 800 for these newer vehicles. So there's grants out there. We've looked into the grants to help us pursue those options when they come in. And we still haven't heard from the funding agencies. So if we're successful, we may be able to buy one or a few if possible.
That'd be great. On the other vehicle, the one that does our sewer clean out, is that still functional or is that down completely?
No, it's still working, but it spends a lot of its time in the shop. We've been trying to push it to its useful life is 20 years. So that's what we had it originally planned for a couple of years from now. but it's just not going to make it. It spends too much time in the shop, and it's costing us more to keep it in the shop than on the road, and we need it. So that's the other thing. We're trying to expand our programs, and it helps keep our infrastructure working better. So that's why we decided to see what the possibilities were out there as far as financing, and luckily we were very successful.
Okay, yeah, because that was one of my concerns, that the impact that it's having on our infrastructure, and not being able to operate this piece of equipment to sustain that infrastructure.
Yeah, so that's why we're being very proactive now and trying to get ahead of this and not wait till it breaks down completely and then we're in a bind.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Hurst.
Oh, you know, I think it says a lot about the world today when a garbage truck is $300,000 plus, and a sewer vac is $500,000. And I appreciate his thinking about our sister cities as well. They might be able to use one of those trucks, or we may be able to use it for parts. Hopefully these new vehicles will be able to run on biodiesel too, and that might be a slightly greener fuel. Clearly the time is right to buy quality rather than pieces of junk, and move forward with low interest rates and the opportunity to refinance, as well as to get a good deal on some of these high quality vehicles and necessary piece of equipment for our crews. That's it.
Thank you, Councilmember Hurst. Anybody else? Ari.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank Cindy for a succinct, focused, and an Olympic medal, presentation. It was great. And the background was great too. I mean, I appreciated it. And I also want to say that in understanding and looking through this, it costs money. It's something we've been talking about, the infrastructure, what we need to keep our city going, all these things that are invisible to a lot of people. We don't even city council are surprised, whoa, we don't have that, or we don't have enough of this. So I'm grateful that Craig on board to help us focus our way there in the best monetary way possible. And Cindy, as always, you are an awesome watchdog for our budget, and greatly appreciated. Thank you.
I move the recommendation.
Well, we have to go out to the public.
Okay, let's do that.
Any comments from the public?
There are no hands up, Mayor.
Wait, are we going to be done before 9 o'clock? Okay, coming back, Lowell. Motion.
Yeah, I'll move staff's recommendation.
Second.
I'll second
Parker?
it. Parker.
It was a close tie, Aurelio. Just here.
Come on, give it to me, Aurelio. Don't add minutes.
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
Parker by a hair.
Okay.
She gets the first ride in the truck.
All right, can you take roll, please? Or the vote?
Estrada,
Aye.
Garcia,
She's saying yes. I can read.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Hurst,
Yes.
Montesino.
Is he here?
Yes, he's there.
Yes. He's
Okay.
nodding his head. Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Dutra.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you.
Good
All
job.
right. Emergency items added to the agenda. I don't see any. Okay, we'll move on. Requests and scheduling for future agenda items. Councilmember Garcia.
Yes. Earlier in one of our discussions regarding housing, I heard two of my council colleagues mention that they would be interested in looking at our inclusionary ordinance going up to 25%. So I'd like to make a request in terms of the council receiving a report from staff in terms of that possibility.
Thank you. Anyone else? Estrada?
Thank you, Mayor. I was hoping to maybe request a presentation from Regeneración, who I serve as an advisory board member for, on the campaign and a lot of work that they're doing, trying to educate the community on electric vehicles and really that shift towards, cleaner energy vehicles. And they're really doing an outstanding job. And I think a presentation from them would be very beneficial to the community. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anybody else? Parker? Council member?
I feel bad because Lowell's had his hand up since the beginning. I'd say age before beauty, but I'm up there too. So here it goes. You know what? Actually asking for, and I don't know if it's set, for our city manager to give a report on how we're doing with our vaccinations and our shots, and any really good hard statistics for our South County coverage at this point, for our next one, if that's possible. Just as you know, I think it's important for everybody to see how many people are taking advantage of it, and continue to encourage people, because I know there's people out there who are just saying, no, not me. Not me yet. I'm waiting. And they, you need to encourage them to continue. So I'd like to have something back in the next agenda. Okay.
That's a good idea, Councilmember Parker, or Mayor Pro Tem, I should say, Parker. Councilmember Hurst, sorry.
Thank you. I'm always glad to go last,
We save the best for last. Isn't that the saying?
Well, that is one of the old sayings, but we got a lot of old sayings too. I don't know that this needs to be an agenda item, but I think we do need some focus on it, and it needs to be said public. We've got a lot of bad drivers, bad pedestrians, folks that are having collisions and wrecks, and it's not Division 0 that we really want to have. And so I'm just asking for a little more focus on traffic enforcement. That includes the super loud mufflers that even old guys are their hearing shot, they can still hear that stuff, and the speeders and the reckless drivers, and just the unsafeness that's going on in the community when it comes to motor vehicles and traffic. That's it.
Thank you. And that's also on my list. City Manager Huffaker and I are going to be discussing that issue and moving forward with something to bring forward. So thank you. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you. I didn't want to leave Lowell being the last one there. And as far as mufflers, I think Lowell, in your times, they were called cherry bombs for the loud noise. And so they've been around for a long time. No, but I'd like us to think about our sister cities. And since we did approve a policy on our flags, and our pride flag was the first one that stepped forward and how can I say this? They led the way. Okay, but I think as a council we need to look at our sister cities and see how we can fly their flags on their given months. So just something for you guys to think about.
And I actually think we should consider finding a Portuguese sister city as well, since we have a huge Portuguese community here in Watsonville. Okay, so if that is it, unless Montesino, everyone said okay. We almost had everybody. All right, everyone. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Tonight is adjourned, 8:49 p.m.
That's great. Good night, everyone. Thank you.